Hello, hello, welcome. Welcome, how is it going? Oh, hold on, where's my buttons? There we go. Hello, hello, how is it going on this fine Saturday? Welcome. Majestic Potato first. Hello, hello. I'm late. Just a little bit, just a little bit. Mao, hello. Steyr TMP. I wish Steyr would bring back the TMP. Bring it back as a retro release. I think it'd sell. Pet sub 2000. Anyway, pet sub 2000 pet. Voob had 400 people. Yeah, they've got some like weekend event going on. How many are there still people on? Yeah, Voop chat still has 200 people online. That's incredible. Good for them. Yeah, let's see. Where's the Voop chat Discord server? There it is. Yeah, apparently Voop chat crashed earlier today. When did it crash? Around like hour and a half, 2 hours ago. Crashed. Yes. Looks like there's a whole weekend of activities going on. So they had 3 events today with various guests. Tomorrow, they've got some stuff going on as well. Around shortly after midday. Hey, get down. Get down. You're not allowed up there. And they've got more stuff on Monday afterwards. So, we might do some Voop chat impromptu tomorrow if I start stream very early. It's not the cat. It's not the cat this time. This was not the cat. I don't know if this one's gonna be able to say hi. You wanna say hi? Come on. Willow. Oh. Hi. Wow, you're too big for this. Hello. Dog. This is dog. You're on like... Oh, you slobbered on my desk. Look at that foot. Look at that foot. Oh my. Oh my. Hi. You're visiting us today, I suppose. And she gone. She drooled on my desk. Scooted everything around too. Dog has been pet. Dog pet. All right, chat. I don't know if you've heard. But the rare breed FRT legal nonsense has finally been resolved. Finally. And I've been sitting here with force reset trigger. It's very bold of me, I guess. Furts? Yeah. Furts. Everyone's can furts again. So I don't have a rare breed force reset trigger. We'd have this one though, the Glock one, the Pembleton one, which by the way, it should be back up. I checked earlier and it was back up. Yes. Pembleton and Sons, it's back up. They're back up, chat. So you can get your $40 Glock force reset trigger, which honestly, for a force reset trigger, you're not going to beat that. You are not going to beat $40. Yeah, Pembleton is back. Which is very cool. Very cool. Also means that in the video I was making about this trigger that I had put off since he took down his shop, I actually have to like finish it now. That's crazy. It's crazy. He wasn't gone for as long as I thought he was going to be. I started procrastinating in the meantime. So now I got to finish the video. All right. We've got some stuff to talk about today. Kind of briefly mentioned it there. But FRTs are back. Specifically the rare breed ones. YouTubers have been releasing all kinds of videos about force reset triggers. So they've been back on the menu for a while, but I think rare breed specifically has been freed. Oh, hold on. There was a video I wanted to watch on stream. Did it get struck? Hold on. Hold on, there's a video I wanted to watch. Where'd it go? Oh. I guess maybe it wasn't. Oh, it was only on... Oh, okay. There was a PSR video I wanted to watch, but okay. I saw that he had posted about the video being released, but it was an early access Patreon supporters release. So we have to wait to watch it. Okay. Well, we'll watch that some other time because it looks like a very cool video. I looked on his YouTube for it and I didn't see it, and I knew I had seen him say something about a new video. I was like, oh, did he get another strike? Nope. It turns out I just, well, it didn't read the original post very well. You know, PSR's got a video about a Red Bull can suppressor that looks super cursed and very interesting. Not the Batfa. Welcome, welcome. Armalite AR-180. Almost as good as the Howa AR-180. Alright, well, since we can't watch the PSR video that I wanted to watch, that's okay. That's okay. We've got another video we can watch instead.
I needed the best connection for...
Shh. I don't want to watch ads, though. What is even ad blocker for anymore? Why does it keep turning off? YouTube is turning off my ad blocker. It's... Huh? Whenever I refresh YouTube, it turns off my ad blocker. I don't like that at all. I am not a fan of that. Also, I refuse to pay for YouTube Premium. I'll pay for YouTube Premium as soon as they actually allow uncensored gun content. YouTube getting aggressive on stopping ad blockers of any kind. I guess it's time for ad blockers to get aggressive back. Why am I getting ads for child modeling? I am neither a child nor do I have children. I just want to watch the video. I just want to look at the video. Okay. All right. Video time. Video time. I'm gonna start with light-hearted gun-tuber slop content before we get into the meat and potatoes. Nine guns that make you look cooler. All of them? What's a gun that makes you look less cool? The Altor. Okay, I guess there are some. The Altor, the Heiser probably. A Draco, very possibly. An AR pistol with no sights on it. Okay, there's a lot of guns that make you look less cool. High point? It depends on which high point. It depends on which high point. If you got a yeet cannon, it makes you cool in a meme lord kind of way.
9 guns that make you seem cooler than you really are, which isn't hard to do for some of you. So I'm trying to keep it within the realm of obtainability, because there are guns that would make you seem obscenely cool if you could afford them or even could get them at all. Like if I saw you running around with a full auto MG42, I'd be like, dang, that guy's really cool. But statistically, a lot of us can't drop the coin on a fully transferable, authentic World War II era MG42.
Not with that attitude.
If you are that person,
just take a mortgage.
That's massive flex. There's also a lot of opinion that goes into this. Clearly, a lot of my personal biases. So take it with a grain of salt if you do get offended. If you do actually get offended by a YouTuber's gun list, I don't know what to tell you. Life's gonna be hard for you. Oh, that's a cute opinion. Did a YouTuber give it to you? Some criteria for how I go about this. Immediate
I'm capable of thinking myself.
Pop culture significance. The overall aesthetic.
Aesthetic is very good, very important.
Is it sexy? Now there is a thing within the gun space where people are hyper-focused about the SHTF, do-it-all, most practical gun setups. And I totally appreciate those very rugged.
Why? I watched an ad like 30 seconds ago.
Robust.
Literally a minute and 10 seconds ago, I watched an ad to start watching this video. What on earth?
Reliable, do-it-all guns, and typically speaking for majority of us, it's like AR-15 of some kind and some setup, and a pistol that is a striker fire, typically a Glock 17. You could fight the apocalypse with that setup and get very far. I'm sure there's other guns.
SHTF builds, very boring. Very boring guns, honestly. YouTube hella aggressive with ads for apparently. It's ridiculous.
You'd want to have, but this is not that video. This is more so for the person that just enjoys firearms in general and or collecting certain guns. The list of guns that I'm going over is not like the most practical guns to fight off the foreign invaders. No, these are just like cool guns.
Hey, you can use your cool gun to fight off the foreign invaders. Like what do you mean? Hey, if you're gonna do something, you may as well look cool doing it.
Objectively cool. And of course, just about any gun can be practical. For some of these, they were the most effective weapon of their day. Some of the best. You're gay. The first gun on this list, the MP5. The MP5 is easily one of the coolest guns of all time.
I still need one.
Now in the civilian world, unless you pay a lot of money, we only have semi-automatic MP5s. It's like getting to go to the Super Bowl, but you're a janitor and have to clean up after the mess. Now, despite this, I still think they are really cool. My favorite configuration of the MP5 has to be the MP5A3. With the built-in Surefire front grip, it just is
okay, that one's good.
Vibes. I think it's like the Surefire 628 form.
I'm not a huge fan of the tacticaled out MP5s.
So now, if you want to go about getting
covered
an MP5
in rails
like this, there are a few options. Typically, you can do the cheap copies. Thinking of like Zenith, PTR. I want to say those are like the Turkish copies. I got a Zenith.
Zenith and PTR? Those are both kind of expensive. MKE, Century. Mac, those are the cheap ones.
Eventually do want to upgrade and get an HK SP5, which would just be another semi-automatic variant of the MP5. Truly, I don't think there's any wrong variant of the MP5 that you could go with. You can go with a more modernized version of the MP5.
Nope, that's
if you want to drop even more money, you get the Knights Armament Rail for it. I think that's a vibe. You go MP5K. There's plenty of variants to go with. Hell, even the
briefcase
MP5
is clearly the best.
My second favorite variant of the MP5. It is one of the smoothest shooting guns, especially in full auto. It is just phenomenal. Now, despite me saying we're trying to keep this in the average Joe ballpark, if you do have a lot of money, which statistically one of you guys, or maybe a few of you guys out there given the numbers of this, maybe you have the coin to buy a full auto transferable MP5 and or
I know a guy who has one though.
Or you want to go the 0207 SOT route, then you could live your dreams, but then you have to do all that paperwork and kind of like lose your Fourth Amendment. Anyway, as far as immediate recognition goes, just about everyone can recognize an MP5, even if they don't know the name of the MP5, which is crazy. Think of movies like Die Hard for how long it's been around. Ho, ho, ho. Now I have a machine gun. If you have games like Call of Duty, just about everyone runs around with an MP5. I will say in the newest Black Ops 6, they absolutely bastardized the MP5 with a bunch of set-me furniture, and it makes me livid. It makes me infuriated. Gonna have an aneurysm. It's gonna give me a hemorrhoid.
That's a weird MP5. I don't like it.
Photos is of the Massachusetts
Call of Duty's
State
washed
Police,
up, though.
and they're on like a foot patrol, two of them with MP5 SDs. Just the vibes alone of those state troopers walking around on foot patrol with MP5 SDs. Dog, that would be a dream patrol weapon to have. You're not gonna blow out your eardrums if you have to stop an active shooter. In fact, you get to comfortably put a bunch of lead accurately into a bad guy. It's actually pretty sick, dude. The trooper hat, dude. Man,
yeah,
dude,
more law enforcement
probably
should use SD variants of guns.
Like 5 over. I'd also say the MP5 is timeless. It's gonna be one of those guns that will probably be around until we all have the great World War III nuclear fallout. Like everyone's always gonna have an MP5 around. Now, in the semi-automatic civilian configuration, would we call it the most practical? And I know I said I wasn't trying to bring that into this, but I would still say you could use it for self-defense. Granted, it's not as effective of a cartridge as like a 5.56, but at the end of the day, it's still lead going down range, and it gives you another option in the arsenal. The cool factor alone, I think, makes it worth it. Number 2, the M1 Garand. Wood and steel. A beautiful combination of weapons technology, and the M1 Garand exemplifies that.
Kinda cool.
An all-American battle rifle designed by a Canadian.
Still cool.
30-06, a cartridge that you could take down an elk with, being used against 120-pound, 5'3" Japanese soldiers in the Pacific. My God, man. The cool thing about M1 Garands is that there's a CMP, and M1 Garands, I would say, are relatively affordable. The most downside part is the expensive 30-06 that you want to shoot. That being said, if you do have
they're
the
still
coinage,
kind of expensive.
The
They're not giving them away.
Expended gives you the most
not
beautiful
PSA
sound
prices
known to man. The M1 Garand has a lot of cool historical significance. Some of your guys' grand and or great-grandparents carrying them into World War II or Korea. It's one of my favorite rifles to use in Hell Let Loose. It's kind of goated in that game, if anything. It's strangely one of those guns where it's like you could imagine, even if like worst case scenario, like I could still use it today. That may sound crazy,
Gross.
but like given the certain
They spilled the
circumstances,
jelly.
if I had to like protect myself with an M1 Garand, I could absolutely do it. It's like Clint Eastwood movies. Get off my lawn. Back.
Imagine using an M1 Garand in a self-defense, like home defense, home invasion situation. You'd be on the news for sure.
Back in Korea, we used to stack silly billies like you 6 feet high. Immediate recognition. You don't have to be a big gun guy to recognize the M1 Garand. You pull that thing out, everyone's gonna be like, oh, I know that gun. That's the M1 Garand. They've seen Saving Private Ryan. They've seen Band of Brothers. They've seen the Pacific. The pop culture significance is massive.
People
and of course,
even call
probably
things that
played the
aren't
video
M1
games
Garands
from the World War II
M1
era.
Garands.
So of course M1 Garand is gonna be cool. And to me, if I saw you with an M1 Garand, I'd be like, ooh, that guy's got good historical taste. I like him. I like that fella. He's a good fella. And of course, it is extremely aesthetically pleasing. It is robust. And yet, at the same time, elegant. There are some really fun variants of the M1 Garand too. You have the M1C and M1D sniper variants. Of course, they'll run you a bit more money because they are a little bit more rare, and that's just typically how markets go. But if you have the coin, I think those would be cool ones to snag.
We already determined I don't have the coin because I don't have a machine gun.
Still have $2,000 in your life savings account, which you can use.
There's also the M1 Garand that's chambered in 308. Like I think that was like the Navy sometime later rechambered some M1 Garands to be in 308. So could be another option for shooting those if you don't want to drop money on, say, 30-06. Now, I think the price differential when you start going from like 30-06 to 308, yeah, it could be like a certain amount of cents. It could add up over bulk orders. But that being said, it does make it nice so at least you could use that 308 with, say, other 308 gun. Oh, there's also the tanker variant of the M1 Garand, which is one of those I do want to get for myself.
I do like
my
tanker
collection.
variants.
I think it's a cool connection to our past. You know,
They're smaller,
like you haven't lived
handier to
unless
use,
you've watched
cooler.
Band of Brothers while cradling an M1 Garand. Gun number 3, the SIG MCX with the suppressor tuck rail. This is
wrong.
oddly specific.
Incorrect.
Now, I've been seeing SIG Sauer get a lot of hate in the gun space lately. And
SIG America
from what
is
I can
washed
tell,
up.
it could be very well deserved. That being said, anytime you show appreciation for a product from a company and they're under a lot of heat, you yourself are going to be prone to getting some of that heat. I totally get that. Now, this is also probably a weird one for this list, and when I was making this, I just couldn't get it out of my head. It's been one of my favorite modern setups as of late. The MCX itself, normally I don't really care about. I do think it's cool with certain setups.
MCX kind of boring.
I was never a big MCX guy until I got the SIG Spear LT chambered in 300 blackout, and then I got a Virtus rail for it to do the suppressor tuck, and then it became one of my favorite setups.
All right, the suppressor inside the handguard is pretty cool on just about every gun. It'd be cooler if it wasn't on a SIG, but I do like the suppressor. Kind of tucked away in there.
For whatever reason, the suppressor tuck look with that rail gets my goat every time. And when I see those out in the wild, and when I see someone else have it, I'm like, ooh, that's a really cool gun setup. That guy has good taste. Am I biased? Perhaps. I know there is the never-ending dilemma that SIG has. I get it.
In the incredibly very, very unlikely event that everything were to fail at once, if the striker were to slip off of the sear, it would catch on the secondary notch to keep that from going forward. But again, that can't happen until the trigger's pulled.
Baldwin says he didn't pull the trigger.
Can't happen until the trigger's pulled.
Baldwin.
Go back.
And then when I see someone else have it, I'm like, ooh, that's a really cool gun setup. That guy has
that
good
police
taste.
video, I was talking about that yesterday, and I couldn't find
Perhaps. I know there is the never-ending dilemma that SIG has. I get it.
In the incredibly very, very unlikely event that everything were to fail at once, if the striker were to slip off of the sear, it would catch on the secondary notch to keep that from going forward. But again,
Oh, maybe it wasn't this one. The one I was talking about was like a similar thing. It's just a bunch of police standing around in the front lobby of a police station. It wasn't this one though.
Again, that can't happen until the trigger's pulled.
Baldwin says he didn't pull the trigger.
But I still got to give him props.
I don't think Baldwin was using a 320.
The gun itself is sleek, it's sexy, and I always will say it has the dimples in the right spot. Love me them dimples. It gives off a high-speed nature.
Everyone
Chances
loves
are
dimples.
the gun is much.
All right, face it. Your life is a
my
complete
goodness.
mess right now. The laundry's not folded. You haven't exercised in weeks.
Much more high.
It's the third ad. We're not even 10 minutes into the video. What on earth?
High speed than most of the owners that have them. I am not excluded from this. It reminds me of seeing those Delta guys running around with the Elva, the low-vis assault weapon, the whole suppressor tuck setup. Oh, dude, I think it's sick.
That was
now,
pretty
despite
cool.
the politics of this country, their counter-terror unit looks really cool, and the MCXs that they run are pretty much a vibe with their whole kit. I don't have to agree with their like, oi, you can't say that. What? You're going to prison for saying that on Twitter? I definitely can't agree with that. That being said, I can still recognize when their counter-terror team, the CTSFO, is pretty freaking drippy. So I gotta give them props. This one's also practical for self-defense, if we're being honest with ourselves. I don't know if the immediate recognition is as strong. It does have some time in some of the Call of Duties.
It's not.
Like I remember it was in 2019
the
Modern
immediate
Warfare,
recognition
and I did
is not
enjoy
there.
using it in that game, but I wouldn't say the pop culture, silver screen presence is as prevalent. Some of the MCXs were showing up in that British show Bodyguard. Outside of that and maybe Lioness, I can't for the life of me off the top of my head remember some other shows. Colton, put him in.
Citizens of Peachtree, I
IMDb.
sentence you to
Just look it
5
up there.
minutes of cringe YouTube shenanigans.
It looks really good. It is very aesthetically pleasing with that suppressor tuck rail. So in my mind, despite
not IMDb, IMFDB. IMDb doesn't care about guns. They probably do. They probably don't like him. IMFDB.
shooting the calibers that are familiar to the AR-15, you know, 5.56, 300 blackout, in some cases even 7.62 by 39, I think it is more interesting to look at and cooler than some AR-15 configurations. That's why I wanted to put it on the list. As far as price goes,
that's a low bar. That's a low bar. And saying that it's cooler than some AR-15s? Because AR-15s are hella boring. Ferocious. How are we doing? We're doing pretty well, except for the YouTube ads every couple minutes. Holy jeez. My wife is very confused on... Wait, my wife... Can't read. Excuse, it's part of being a VTuber. My wife is very confused by what is on my phone right now. Hi, wife. I can't believe Holy Jeez has an IRL waifu. He escaped the downward spiral of the internet and got a real life waifu. That's incredible.
They're on the definite higher tier of cost range. Will the barrel bend? Find out next week.
You'd like her. I don't believe in women. Women aren't real. Talk to women? Can you imagine? It's crazy. She's probably super cool though. She's good archer and shooter. Very nice. Honestly, a lot of women who I've seen shoot, I don't know about archery. I've never been much into archery. A lot of the women who I've seen shoot at just like a base, like beginner to intermediate level, are better than most dudes with the same amount of experience. I don't know why. That's just how it is. It might be because women aren't out there like trying to prove something, and a lot of dudes are. I don't know. Guns are the great equalizer, so women should have them. And apparently women are good with them, which makes it more of an equalizer. Holy jeez. I find women generally follow instruction better and end up with good technique. Sounds a little misogynistic of you, don't you think? I mean, I think you're right. I think you're right. Yeah, dudes tend to have more ego that you gotta deal with. Yes, they don't think they know it all. I mean, they listen and pay attention. Based. Women are meant to listen and pay attention. You heard it here first. To be fair, a lot of dudes would be better off if they also would listen and pay attention. Lastly, they need to focus on food technique based. Women need to focus on food technique. True. Fantastic typo. Good technique to overcome general biology disadvantage. I mean, the biological disadvantage is more if you're going to be shooting large things. So if you're shooting particularly large calibers or particularly heavy guns, then there's more of a difference. But if you're shooting like an AR-15, it's fairly lightweight rifle, very controllable, pretty light recoil. Well, there are still the biological differences for sure. It's not as pronounced. Unless they're small. Being small can be a disadvantage.
On 6 hours, quality assurance. Also, they gotta close that freaking gap at the back of the receiver. Close the gap, little bro. Shut the f. Number 4!
We're already on 4.
I'm getting slightly unspecific here, but an AR-15 retro build. This one should actually come as no surprise for this list. The AR retro build does something so beautiful where it can
There's some
capture
cool retro
an
ARs.
era of time. So there's like a level of nostalgia
It's too broad, though.
that goes into it. It's like
Too broad of a category here. And the biology disadvantage with generally less mass and lower strength is very real throughout all shooting sports, in my opinion. Of course, it's even worse with heavy guns or high recoil. Maybe. I'm just saying that, like, in my experience, that hasn't really seemed to play a role in it. M16A1. Yeah, I like the super retro ARs. Not these. I mean, the GWAT retro builds, they're cool, don't get me wrong. But take it back further. I want like the Cold War retro ARs.
Playing a video game on an older console that you grew up playing. In some cases, it's like that. There's a term for it, but it's like nostalgia for an era that you never got to partake in. You're never too young to have the Vietnam War flashback. There are, of course, many
meme war flashbacks.
Retro, right? And typically when I say retro builds of the AR, people think fixed carry handle. And in a lot of ways, I do mean that, but we're getting to a point in time where even some of those detachable carry handle builds can now be considered retro, where it's like over 20 years. 20 years ago was 2005. These guys had some very interesting builds that had detachable carry handles. Of course, my favorite is probably going to be the Blood Diamond Car 15.
Oh, it's
built
so
a whole
green.
YouTube persona around that biatch. I also think the Colt
green.
733 from Heat is a fantastic option. Val Kilmer, rest in peace, showing us all how to shoot, move, and communicate.
I never saw that movie. I have no nostalgia for it.
The LAPD while also carrying millions of dollars. And then we have the Black Hawk Down, not the movie guns, but the 723s. You have a plethora of options to choose from. Hell, you can go back to Vietnam. You can do some old M16s or some XM177s.
Those are the good ones.
And that's the
The
beautiful
Cold
thing
War
about it.
retro.
You kind of get some
That's
bang
where
for
it's
your
at.
buck too, because you can get a good 5.56 gun that still does the job of a modern 5.56. Sure, it doesn't have the modularity. Oh, I want to put on my gizmos and my gadgets. But it's cool. It's cooler than you'll ever be.
I don't put gizmos and gadgets on anyways. This flashlight right here, this is the only weapon mounted light that I have. That's the only one I have. And it's on a tactical over-under shotgun. Because if you're not memeing, you're not living. This flashlight right here, $5. It's an O light, so yeah, pretty much. Holy jeez. The good news is that the gun does the bulk of the work, so women can be quite competitive in shooting sports. If I didn't have decades more experience, my wife would likely be better. We mainly shoot shotgun sports. Oh no, they're out there shooting a FUD shooting sports. Out there shooting to skeet in a trap. I don't know, those are fine. They're cool. It's just, I'll do them every now and then. It doesn't really tickle my tism though. I like the action sports. Action shooting sports. I want to have to run around and do things. And I guess once you start having to run around and do things, then men get more of an advantage as well. Have you seen The Beast, aka The Beast of War? It's probably the best AK movie, the best Alaska movie. I have not seen that movie, no. Black Hawk Down Gordon carbine is kind of cool. I think Admin definitely did a video on that one. Not the Batfa. I'm gonna put a thermal on an LCP for the. How do you mount a thermal on an LCP? It doesn't have any mounting spots. The LCP Max you can mount stuff on. You can attach stuff to an LCP Max. Can't shoot trap anymore. You get manslaughter charges. They're not called traps anymore. Don't you know that's offensive? Excuse me. So if you go through like the history, the history of the word trap, you got like trap and skeet, and it's okay to shoot trap. And then for all of a sudden it wasn't okay to shoot traps anymore. And now you can't call people traps now. And so you can shoot traps again. So it's trap and skeet. Skeet 5-stand sporting clays is really fun. I mean, I don't doubt that's really fun. Like I have a sporting like over under shotgun that is for like trap and skeet shooting. And it's fun when I go do it. I have a good time. But you know what's way more fun? Pistol and rifle competitions. Not the like extended or extreme long range stuff. I'm not into that either. Partly because I never got into it and I don't have the money to. Oh geez. I'm gonna get a really short break action shotgun for home defense. But the only makers are really cheap, not reliable. I mean, I've got this one here. This is just Stoger. I like it. It's decent. It's never failed me. I also haven't used it for a defense situation because it only holds 2 rounds. And also I've never needed to use a gun in a defensive situation. Believe and not the BAFTA. The same way I mounted a 2-to-7 scope and red dots on LCP. Custom frame mounted bracket. That's horrible. I want pictures. That's terrible. Where? I've never heard an actual one be offended. You've never heard a they them be offended? Honestly, I'm in Texas, so I don't have a lot of opportunities to potentially offend someone. Stoger, made in Brazil or Turkey? This one, I believe, was made in Turkey. but it's made by Stoger in Turkey. So it's not made by one of those like random Turkish manufacturers that's just imported. It is the Stoger factory in Turkey. But there's, I don't know, I'm not going to write off a shotgun just because it was made in Turkey. Because there's brands that have that are very reputable that are made in Turkey. For example, Winchester. Winchesters are made in Turkey. They're made in the Istanbul Sila factory. And that's not even a Winchester-owned factory. That's just some third party they import. Stamp Winchester on it. Mossberg. Mossberg also has guns made in Turkey. CZ. Yes, some CZ shotguns are made in Turkey. Almost every company has some shotgun made in Turkey. Holy jeez. I'm creating a competition at my club where I am president. Sporting a 4-gun. 4-gun? Pistol, standing rifle, bench rest, and skeet/shotgun. Standing rifle and bench rest rifle? Interesting. Can you use the same gun for standing and bench rest? Like you just have the same gun and you just sit down with it? Alright, back to video. We're still on gun 4.
When I see a guy that has a sick retro build that you know has a good attention to detail, I think that guy is squared away. I want that guy on my softball team.
Huh? Stop questioning what % gay I am.
Now, the immediate recognition aspect of this, right? Would a normie recognize the significance of some of these retro builds? I think not. But to the gun guy, the immediate recognition for a lot of these builds, I think, is substantial because so many of us are familiar with this media, with the whole cult.
If you're not a gun guy, you see literally any of these and you're like, wow, cringe LARPer. If you're into guns, you're like, wow, that's this specific gun from this specific piece of media or this specific era in history. Otherwise, people look at you and call you a LARPer.
Following of the carry handle, so it can kind of show that you have some taste, some elegance. My God, how did a nitwit like you get so tasteful? The pop culture, of course. I've already mentioned Blood Diamond, Black Hawk Down, Heat. There's plenty of other examples out there. I will give it to the newest Black Ops 6, despite them butchering, absolutely butchering, the MP5. I have enjoyed some of the builds you can do with their Car 15 setup in the game. Of course, I always ran a red dot fixed carry handle setup with that 723 they got in there. It's my jam. I think when it comes to the looks and aesthetics, it's kind of like an acquired taste, you know, where you can tell someone's not a grown-up when they don't like coffee. And another cool thing is if you do want to trick out a retro
Coffee's
gun,
gross.
I think it's cool if you trick it out with modern parts. And I even done it with a updated version of the Blood Diamond Car 15, where it was like the Blood Diamond Car 15 Block 2. Yeah, I know saying that sentence is extremely nerdy, but if you're here, you know, me included, we're all a bunch of gun nerds. I think it's fun to pair the old world with the new to curate an interesting piece of lethal art, dare I say. I'm starting to use big words and be pretentious
Count
like
hates
James
coffee? It's because coffee's gross. I'm not so miserable that I need to prop my life up on mediocre caffeine every morning. So I never had to force myself to acquire the taste of coffee. Because when I did require caffeine in the morning, before I cut it out, I drank energy drinks. Because they're tastier. Buy better coffee? I don't buy any coffee. or any energy drinks anymore. Chat, I don't drink caffeine.
Reeves. I actually like James Reeves a lot. He's really funny. My fellow replicants, this video is sponsored by Americana Pipe Dream Apparel. Fantastic middle-aged Zoomers getting after it in the middle space
middle-aged
arena.
Zoomers?
They have a plethora of very cool things on the website. Night vision, knives, manuals,
I'm gonna be a middle-aged Zoomer.
other accoutrement, and of course, military surplus clothing. They even have their own clothing line that you can go and check out. I like these guys a lot. They've been fantastic sponsors for the channel for a long time now, and I encourage you to go check them out for yourself.
No.
We also have to give a big thanks to Optics.
I'm not even going to be a middle-aged Zoomer. It's not old enough.
Use code
I'm going to be a boomer
for 7%
Zoomer.
off the entire store when you check out. And of course,
I'm gonna complain about things being made out of plastic.
They're using Badlands Munitions, a local Arizona ammunition
complain
company.
About everyone spending too much
admin,
time on their phones.
From the store. Appreciate those guys very much. They're always cooking up very interesting things over there. One of which I think is a very standout thing is the 85 grain 5.56. Pretty gnarly. Now let's continue with the list. Gun number 5. We have to get a handgun on this list. You know, when I was thinking of all the handguns that I wanted to do, one stood out on its own. And that gun would be the Colt Python. Is that a Colt Python in your pants?
Boomer take.
You just have
Boomer
to see
take.
me. There were plenty of handguns that I was deliberating on for this particular list. A bunch of guns that I think are cool, that I have experience with. There was one that it edged out. Are you gooning or are you edging? I'm sorry. There was one that kind of pushed out. And
are you gooning or edging?
The HK USP and 45 on this list, but for whatever reason, the Colt Python
Mark 23
pushed the USP over the cliff in cold-blooded
Mark 23 is definitely higher than the Python.
Oh no! Oh no! Now this gun was known to the boomers as a very cool firearm. I know I say cool a lot on the channel, but this gun really truly is a Cadillac of the
Rule 60. Oh my goodness. Hold on, you made me pause the video to do this. There you go. There you go. Gooning. No goon. No gooning, chat. It's not allowed. No, this is a no gooning zone. I also can't enforce it. So we're just gonna click play on the video.
Revolver world. The immediate recognition of the Python is, I would say, thanks to that ventilated like heat ribbing on top of the barrel. When you see that, you know you're dealing with a Colt Python. Even me being...
Okay, chat. Would you rather go shooting with someone who's bringing a Colt Python or someone who's bringing a Chiappa Rhino? Like, wait, what kind of person are you going to go shooting with? The Rhino owner or the Python owner? Python? He clearly has fancier guns than I can afford, but they're like the same price. A Rhino and a Python? Hold on. Okay, there's a little bit of a difference. There's a couple $100 difference. There we've got Colt Python, $1,400. Chiappa Rhino, $1,300. It's like $150 difference. Pretty sure the python's 14. You can find rhinos around 1,000. Okay, yeah, you can. Not the $1,000 rhino. The $1,000 rhinos are like the little short, snubby ones. They can't sell otherwise. Those ones are stupid. Depends. Did they buy or inherit the python? They bought it. They bought it. Either one, they bought it. Mao, I'd like to have a rhino, but single action only is allowed? Why? Why? Why would a double action revolver not be allowed? California? They scared of those high capacity revolvers might be able to shoot ever so slightly faster, but also less accurately. Ugh. I guess I've seen a difference. Like Chiapa does have the standard rhino and the California rhino, but I never knew what the difference was because they look identical. California really doesn't allow double action revolvers? Ew. Ew. Double action is required to be roster approved. Okay, so single action you can sell in California without being on the roster, I guess. Disgusting. Single action revolvers are exempt from roster requirement. Can we just like scoop California into the ocean? Like right along the fault line. Like in that old Superman movie. There was some villain that was trying to separate California in half along the fault line. And Superman went and stopped this guy's good deed. Unbelievable. Am I sure this is made in Turkey? Oh, where is it? It says on here somewhere, I know it. Oh, no, you're right. This is made in Brazil. You're correct. E.R. Amontino. Most of these are made, or most Stoker guns are made in Turkey. This one is not. You're correct. I apologize. It's made by E.R. Amontino in Turkey. Not Turkey, Brazil. I have more Brazilian guns than I thought I did, chat. That means I have 3 Brazilian guns. Gotta be sure to tell Dick. He's gonna be so proud of me.
As far into guns as I am, sometimes I see certain revolvers, certain revolvers, and I can recognize.
Hold on. Let's don't send me to Brazil. Just send the Brazilian stuff to me. I don't have to go there. I just want the stuff.
But I don't know the exact model number off the top of my head. The nice thing about the Colt Python is it's like usually pretty simple. It's like, oh, it's a Colt Python. Of course, there's different, I'm sure numbers, variations, stuff like that. But for the most part, it's usually pretty quick to recognize.
Because of the way it is.
The pop culture of the Colt Python is pretty expansive. Coral! You have, of course, The Walking Dead, with Rick rocking a 6-inch version of the Colt Python. And there's also a plethora of other media with it. And it's been in a lot of Call of Duties, making it very popular. And it has a really good aesthetic, I will say. Duties, making it very popular.
You just racked the slide on his revolver.
Really good aesthetic,
good job, Call of Duty.
I will say, as far as revolvers go. My favorite variation is the 4-inch model. I think it's a little bit more practical. I like it more than the 6-inch model. My God, the jokes to be made that I'm leaving on the table.
No,
and
the longer
cool
the better.
thing about a Colt Python is if you like whip that thing, if you whipped your Python out, the cool thing is if you whipped your Python out the range,
Chat, don't whip your Python
the gun
out.
guys would be like, oh dude, this guy's
Especially
got a
in public.
well-curated taste in firearms. And I
Gotta
think
be in the right situation, the right
double-action
place.
revolvers are very fun to shoot because you have to be very deliberate. It is, I would definitely say, not as easy to master, dare I say, as a semi-automatic, magazine-fed handgun, because there is so much that goes into it. There is the techniques of loading. Are you loosely, fumbly loading ammo, or do you have a speed loader of some kind? Chances are, if you're ever using it, if you're a really old guy,
revolver
you watch
reloads?
this channel, one, I'm sorry, but two, back in the day, those
Need a UGC video for your business? Find me and many other skilled creators on Fiverr. Or you
cops that
It's the 4th ad, 20 minutes into the video. 4th ad. Is admin on Rumble? I'm gonna start watching things on Rumble. Goodness sakes. Nothing's gonna chase me to Rumble faster than watching like 8 ads per video.
that carried double action revolvers on the job, they had to become like wizards if they wanted to live running a freaking 38 special double action revolver. You have to be very deliberate. Like if you shoot 3 rounds from a Colt Python, you've depleted half of your ammo.
He might be, he probably is.
I had to make the fractions simple for me. I sucked at fractions. But I think it makes for a fun time shooting because there is so many things you have to process when shooting, right? Even just casually at the range. You fire 6 rounds, you open up the cylinder, you have to eject the rounds. Using your dominant hand, I think, is more efficient to then get your speed loader up, release the rounds into the cylinder, close, and then get back on target. I think it's a very fun experience. It's a nice break from the monotony of shooting those magazine-fed semi-automatic handguns.
Yeah, I hate that monotony of having a pleasant to use gun.
If you don't think the Colt Python is cool, then you're just trying to be special.
Well, I might be. Well, I might be. I have a Calico and a few single-shot pistols.
Number 6. Funny enough, number 6 is one of the guns on
Speaking of ads, Twitch, non-subscribers, rest in peace. You get to watch Twitch ads and YouTube ads at the same time right now. I'm so sorry. My deepest condolences.
This list that I don't own. I own a variation of, say, this style of gun, but that would be the Winchester 1897 trench gun. I wanted to get a shotgun on this list. I wanted to make it happen. And I
like
wanted
the 1887
the coolest version of
a little
that
better.
platform that I could think of, and without a doubt, I think it's
The 1897 is very
trench gun.
cool, though.
The heat
Don't get me wrong.
shield bayonet setup. Without that, it starts to feel like just another old shotgun, and that in itself can still be cool, but it doesn't have the same vibe as with the heat shield on it. As far as immediate recognition goes, the normal person may not be too familiar with the trench gun and its significance. Within the gun guy circles, everyone knows the trench gun. If you are a video gamer, say you're someone that lives in a different country, doesn't even have access to guns, chances are you could recognize
in terms of
the trench gun,
shotguns,
depending on what
I feel like
games
it's
you
pretty
play. I know for me
recognizable to
personally,
normies.
I love using the trench gun in Hell Let Loose because it absolutely just melts away anybody you shoot it with. And one cool thing about it is I think it very beautifully embodies the American fighting spirit, where Americans are in a lot of ways psychotic and we want to get very close to you and use a shotgun and or bayonet on you. I had to
I want a couple lever shotguns, one for clay shooting and home defense version. Cimarron sells the 1887 in both a short and a long version, which is very neat.
Be on a boat for a while to get here and walk a lot of distance. I am going to use my trench gun now. If I was out the range and I saw you had a trench gun, I would say this guy knows his guns and he has a refined palate when it comes to curating his own personal collection. And it is definitely a gun that makes you seem cool.
It is definitely a gun.
Number 7 may be the most controversial firearm on this list.
Oh no. Oh no, what is it?
A muzzle-loading military weapon. Now this is kind of broad. For
that
me,
is so broad.
It's my Baker rifle.
That is the broadest category we've had. And there literally was any retro AR.
For you, it could be something else. I'll tell you a story. SHOT Show 2025. And boy, do I hate SHOT Show.
Our goal is to expand our participant base beyond the normal customer. Most of our customers are Caucasian, male, and a little bit older.
Shut up, Karen.
But I went.
And what's wrong with that customer base? Why do you hate white Caucasian males? Well, why is that?
Nonetheless, I was only on the show floor for one day, and there was one specific booth that I wanted to go to, and that was Pedersoli, because I wanted to see if they had anything cool. And I wanted to tell them to bring the Baker rifle to the market for mass consumption. Now, if you're unfamiliar with the Baker rifle, and there's going to be a whole video on this later on the channel, it's a weapon used by the British in the Napoleonic Wars, by British riflemen to be exact. And there's a whole lore that I can do on it to keep things brief. It's a gun that I think is pretty sick. Sick, you bastards. Now, I went to Pedersoli and I told them that I want them to make the Baker rifle. And a lot of
the best muzzle loader, the most vibey, is a blunderbuss shotgun. Which is different than a blunderbuss rifle. Because those both existed and they're different. A blunderbuss shotgun, though, that's the one people think of when you say blunderbuss. Well, you just have your powder charge and you just stuff whatever you've got in there. Make a shrapnel thrower. That's the best muzzle loader.
Guys were a little bit later in their years and they did not seem very interested. Maybe they had some plans, I don't know. But I tried to tell them for you guys. And after I saw Pedersoli, I was manhandling one of their brown besses for a bit, and then I was like, cool, I think I'm good for the day. That's how much of a nerd I've become. I think black powder guns are stupid fun. As far as the instant recognition, say by normies, I don't know if it's that good. Of course, they're gonna be like, whoa, a musket, but they're not gonna say differentiate between certain factions muskets, say between a French musket or a British musket.
I'm gonna be honest.
They just know.
Even most gun guys aren't going to be able to differentiate between most different patterns of muskets. That's so niche.
Oh, it's like a flintlock musket. Hell, they may even see like a percussion cap musket and think it's a flintlock, and or vice versa. Call a flintlock a percussion cap. They just have no idea. And now I will say, this is getting into a territory even beyond my expertise, so I'm not even an expert on this. I just have an affinity for them. I'm not an expert on much. I'm actually kind of retarded. The pop culture significance, I would say, could be up there. There is a lot of media where, you know, muskets and or rifled muskets are being used and or rifle muzzle loaders being used. If you have any sort of media going from...
Oh, his face just exploded. Mao, have a young customer who seems to have fun trying a 410 Henry lever at sporting clay places. That's probably fun. You look cool shooting a lever action. I have tried shooting clays with my lever action, my 1887. It was not ideal. Although I think that's mostly because it has a 20-inch barrel. And not because the gun itself, like the action, couldn't do it. How many can distinguish AK variants? I can distinguish some AK variants. But distinguishing AK variants is also... that's also a very niche thing.
you know, the piracy era all the way up to like the Civil War, you have black powder muzzle loaders in play, of course, all with different mechanisms of getting the job done. One thing I love about them is that here in America, legally, they're not even considered firearms, so you could buy one off the internet and it's shipped right to your door. It's kind of like a taste of how things should actually be with other firearms. And I think in some cases, they are very affordable, because you can't really shoot them super fast, so you're not going to blow through a bunch of ammo.
What is a recommendable barrel length for clay shooting? Probably like 28 to 34 inches is what I usually see. Mine is 30 or 32, I don't remember which. But 28 is usually the minimum. People take it up to 34s on the maximum. Those people put extended chokes in there. You can add an inch. You can have a 32-inch barrel over under, except I've got extended chokes in there that extend it by another inch. .26 is old school. And 26 is a nice, like, hunting shotgun length. You're gonna go hunt ducks or dove or something. 30-34 seems to be competitive. From seeing competition guns, yeah. Yeah. Especially since my boss and his shop are a Caesar Garuni dealer. Probably butchered that name. Sounds fancy though. It has nothing to do with accuracy or pattern. It affects balance and swing speed. Mainly gets bead further away from your eye. What that is accuracy. Hold on. Having an extra 12 inches in your sight radius is absolutely going to increase accuracy. It's so you don't focus on the bead. What? Keep shot pattern tighter and a bit longer. So keeping the shot pattern tighter is going to have a lot more to do with the forcing cone inside the barrel than with straight barrel length. Although obviously, like an 18-inch barrel shotgun is going to have a wider spread than a 30-inch barrel shotgun. So you get a little bit better kind of pattern, because a shorter barrel shotgun absolutely will have a wider pattern. Partly because just the barrels are shorter, partly because the forcing cone inside the barrels can't be as long. And you're also going to have higher velocity out of a longer barrel, just because, well, with any gun, you've got more space for the expansion of gases before the end of the barrel. Sight radius isn't really a thing with shooting moving clay targets. Maybe not. Maybe not, but barrel length absolutely is. If you go take a 12-inch short barrel KSG out there, it's not going to do as well as a nice like 30 to 34 inch over under. Now you'll see a difference in pattern from 26 to 34, all else equal. Yeah, the 26 to 34, I mean, probably between the two extremes, a 26 and 34, you probably see a difference. But between any couple of those, probably not a lot. Modern wads also make a huge difference in the shot patterns. True. This is very true. Mao, when shoot a KSG 25 for clays. So I need a KSG at some point, and I'm always like flip-flopping in between getting just a standard KSG or one of the short barrel KSGs or the KSG 25. Like ideal world, you know, like I won the lottery, I could have all of them. But instead I can't.
Very quickly. The ammo itself, you know, in relative terms, you can buy a decent amount of lead balls and projectiles and go have a good time. Like, if you were a well-trained soldier, you're gonna get off 3 rounds a minute, but if you're just casually shooting, you're gonna get off a round like a minute while you're just chit-chatting with the boys, having a good time, hanging out.
Can you change parts on the KSG? You can change some parts on a KSG. It depends on which parts you want to change out.
The weather, and there's a fun novelty factor. For me personally, I gravitate more towards flintlocks. I like the more primitive nature of that. I think percussion caps are a cool development, but to me the flintlock is fun because
is way
you have
cooler
to
than
like
percussion
conquer your
cap.
fears of the eye doctor test with like a mini explosion going off like this far away from your face. That puff of air at the eye doctor test. Oh! I think there's some fringe benefits for my guys that are hunters even, where you have those seasons where maybe it's like black powder only. So if it's like a lottery system, maybe it's not that competitive if you got a black powder setup. And in general, I think it beautifully taps into a part of human history that I find personally very interesting. I think there's a notion when we look back at those people that fought in line formation with muskets, we think of them as stupid.
I would like to get one of the Japanese Tanagashimas. The Japanese black powders, those ones are pretty cool. There's no increased mechanical accuracy for longer barrels. It's all about being easier to point more accurately and faster. I mean, if you have the longer barrel, you do get higher velocity, which, while not directly linked to accuracy, does make you practically more accurate. Japanese arquebus. Japanese guns have a general novelty to them. It's true. It's too bad all the Howas we get are basically just Remington 700s with a better finish.
But they are very much in tune with the tactics of their day. I would also say that this one would be a very refined taste, where most of you would probably disagree on me and most of you don't have a very heavy interest in muzzle loaders. I could probably see a lot of you guys just really focusing on either, say, retro guns and or the most modern tactical guns, as lethal and as cutting edge as possible. But if you want to have some good times, a musket's a good way to go.
Muskets are very vibey. It's true.
A doohickey gun. Another ambiguous kind of category. And if I narrow it down...
He's dropping the most ambiguous categories that are at all possible. I don't think it's possible to have more ambiguous categories. Any retro build AR a black powder muzzle loader doohickey gun out now. Oh my goodness.
I would say, and I kind of hate myself for this, but the Flux Raider. I know this will be another hotly contested one, and the reason for the interest in this gun is because it is strictly a fun thing to play with, in my opinion. So when I pick a Flux Raider up, I know that I have something to look forward to when I press the release latch to let out that spring-tensioned stock, and that's fun. There's a lot of stuff going on in the gun that you have to try and figure out. That
liking a gun because it's fun is absolutely valid.
As far as immediate recognition goes, I don't know. I don't know how well the normie could recognize a Flux Raider. And as far as like major pop culture goes, there's probably like the Seal show I think it was in. It's popped up in some video games, maybe even Ready or Not it's showed up in. I know there's another controversy with it using the SIG P320 slide and fire control group. It's not the reason I like it. I think I like it because of the chassis and it's a doohickey-ish setup. I wouldn't even mind the whole slide thing with the
Have they made a Flux or something similar for the other fire control group guns? Like, is there a Flux or a Flux equivalent for like an Echelon? Because that'd be cool. To distinguish what makes the shooter more accurate and what makes the firearm more accurate. And practically, like in practice, that's indistinguishable. Do you actually get more velocity at those lengths? I haven't looked at 12 gauge, but there are plenty of cartridges where you are getting little to no increased velocity at that length. A couple will lose velocity at that length. So, I mean, I specifically was talking about, like, comparing my 20-inch 1887 to an actual, like, competition, not necessarily competition, like a clay shooting over-under. And that 12-inch difference absolutely does make a velocity difference that is significant when you're shooting it. Between like 30 and 32 inches, I don't know. But between my 20-inch that I talked about shooting clays with and my either 30 or 32 inch, I don't remember which one, over under, it is very much noticeable that there is a velocity difference. Optics can make a shooter more accurate. A longer barrel makes the gun more accurate. Generally, yes. Turkey guns with a 24-inch barrel can pattern super tight, and I don't have no difference in velocity. I don't know. I don't know which ammo specifically you're testing that with, or like which guns you're comparing that between as well, because you are going to have different shot patterns even with different guns of different barrel lengths. So like if you take the like a Beretta A300 with a 28-inch barrel against a Beretta A400 with a 28-inch barrel, you're going to have a way better pattern with the A400 because the forcing cone inside the barrel is like 10 inches longer. So that's not about barrel length. There's some other stuff going on inside there besides barrel length. Assuming at least 24-inch barrel. Velocity and pattern is not measurably different with different barrel lengths. Black powder shot shells may need... My 1887 does not take black powder. I was not shooting black powder shot shells through it. I was just... it was probably just like some standard like Winchester clay shot. I don't know. But it was the same ammo through both. Talking hypothetical, yeah, black powder is going to act very much different. Very different than modern smokeless powder. Because black powder does burn much slower in general.
P320, yet again, they have all their controversy going on. You could insert just about any slide, right? I think it has to do with the fire control unit making the gun much easier to do with the whole chassis thing. I wouldn't mind any other type of handgun they could integrate with, preferably like a Glock or some other type of handgun, but I think the fire control kind of makes it. I will say, objectively, I like the way it looks. I think when you trick the thing out, it does have a cool, compact nature to it.
They do kind
One
of
thing
look
I
cool.
like about it is
I'll admit the flux looks cool. It looks kind of sci-fi. Like you'd see it in like some movie where they're having a firefight in a space station or something. Like something stupid. But it has that kind of vibe to it, and it's kind of cool.
It's kind of like the MP7 we have at home. I was on the fence for this category doing an MP7. The only reason I pulled it off and kind of did this one was that the Tommy built MP7s have been having a lot of issues. I like what Tommy built is doing with the MP7 and trying to get it to us for market, but if it's having all these issues, it makes dropping all that money on a Tommy built MP7 not a fun experience.
Rest
At
in
least
peace,
with a
MP7.
doohickey type gun, it's a little bit more fun and it's not gonna like not work like those MP7s that have been. And the actual MP7s are pretty much unobtainium for the average Joe. I also like it because I think 9mm is one of the more serious.
He's doing, you mean did? Yeah, rest in peace. Rest in peace, Tommy built. Welcome UO Arms. Has UO Arms done anything yet? What's their website? Is it just uoarms.com? Yeah, it is. Nope. Doesn't look like anything yet. Still join the waitlist. Dallas, Texas. Hey, that's where my Ross Martin was made, in Dallas, Texas. Is UO a subsidiary of Ross Martin? Is the They're both in Dallas, Texas. Rip Tommy built. Yeah, Tommy built. Obviously, hindsight 2020. Tommy built should have stayed on the TG36. Join the waitlist. Oh, that just scrolls me down. Okay. Got your 2-page website here. Barrel length can have a significant effect on rifle/pistols, mechanical accuracy, sight radius, velocity, etc. But shotguns is pretty much only a difference in balance, swing, and feel. Yes, so I agree that out at a certain length, probably that like 26 to 34-inch length, that's true. But once you get down to like a 20-inch, or even take it down to a short barrel shotgun at like a 14-inch, that is no longer true. That is no longer true. Gotcha. Should have spent another 3 to 5 years developing. Keep selling TG36 and TMPs. Probably. Whatever they did, they messed something up along the way. Which is very sad. Oh, hi. Welcome back. Did the MP7 kill Tommy Built? Pretty much. Effectively, MP7 killed Tommy Built. Very sad. Because I wanted a Tommy Built G36. I've never really cared about the MP7, honestly. It's kind of neat, but the MP7 really never tickled my tism. The TG36, though, want one of those. Are there... Hold on. I'm gonna regret looking this up on Gunbroker. TG36 on Gunbroker. Ooh. Ooh. 7,000. 4,500. $3,600. Just the stock, $100. Alright, chat, who's getting this cursed G36 here? Only $7,000. Custom. Is it a brace? It's not even an SBR. Is that a faux suppressor? Or this got to be a faux suppressor, right? Oh. Cack? Cack? If suppressor isn't being purchased, I can install CAC 3-prong or NT4 muzzle device for another $100. Okay, so this price is not including the suppressor if he's going to charge extra for a muzzle device, right? You're going to charge someone more money to take off a suppressor and put on a muzzle device. Oh, that's the I hate these kind of gun broker listings. Oh yeah, there was a picture. There was a picture with no suppressor. I hate these listings. They've got all kinds of stuff on it. They got the aim point, the suppressor, sights. I don't know if those come with or with not, because I don't know what comes with the gun, apparently. It might not even come with that brace. Still $7,000. No suppressor, no aim point. You should be able to report listings like this. Misleading information.
Yet affordable cartridges that you can shoot and have a good time with. You know, it's not, say, as expensive as dumping a bunch of high-end 5.56, but you can still have a good time and people will still call 9mm practical to use for self-defense. If I was out at the range and saw you had a tricked out Flux Raider setup, I would think, oh, that's pretty cool. You know, clearly this guy's into guns.
That's pretty nifty.
He's got some interest in like new technology. And I think the Flux Raider does have a place in one's collection. I think it's a cool setup if you have the coin for it. Honorable mention would be the BWC9 from B&T. Walking along with your lunchbox, and then all of a sudden, a threat. Oh, that's kind of like another doohickey gun where it's a folding gun. I think just about any folding gun or something that has a novelty of deployment, I kind of like.
Fun guns.
I think it makes for a fun time. Yet again, the B&T BWC9 is another SIG P320 chassis, but it's the nature of the beast with these things, I suppose. So I guess I just won't have one in the chamber. I also like with a doohickey gun that it is very compact. So it makes me feel like I'm some kind of secret spy James Bond guy if I ever tote one around in a bag or something like that. I like the idea of thinking I am a much more secret squirrel, high-speed spy, super soldier that I am until reality sets in and my knees hurt.
Oh, he just threw it on the rocks.
The AK-105. Pain. Keeping the list tight. Keeping the list abbreviated.
TP9. Yeah, TP9 is cooler than the Flux. I still would like both of them. Welcome back again. Hi. You hear the collars shake? You hear the tags on the dog. Imagine you order a multi-$1,000 rare gun, and all that comes in is the frame / receiver. And you didn't read the fine text in the gun broker listing. It's like, does not include barrel, handguard, grip, stock. Just only the receiver. They took everything else off. It probably exists somewhere on Gunbroker.
Keeping the list a lot of personal preference. I still wanted to get an AK platform on here, and I think one of my favorites is the AK-105. The AK-105 has plenty of variations and even now manufacturers that you can choose from. Personally, I would much rather have a receiver and or parts kit that came from an Eastern Bloc country, but those do get relatively expensive. And if you're trying to ball on a budget, there are other homegrown manufacturers that you can choose from now. Despite the massive amount of problems that you have, I do own a PSA AK-105. For now, it's a pin and weld AK-105, so it has a gaudy extended flash hider, so it's not an NFA device. For whatever reason, I can't get over the
remove SBRs from the NFA
AK-105, and I personally love it in multiple configurations. I love it in the 100 series furniture. I love it when it's Zeniko'd out. I in general just think it's really
only one making the 105 is PSA.
One of my favorite variations of the AK-105 would probably have to be like a Spetsnaz Alpha style AK. And I think of the Larry Vickers video that he did back in the day where he was with Alpha Group and he was going over his own version of the AK-105 that he called like his Alpha Group AK-105. So it's fun to see like the East and the West meeting and having an interesting matchup. I was debating on which variation.
Someone else needs to make one. Yeah. In order for someone else to make one, I think there needs to be more demand for one, honestly. I think most of the demand for AKs right now is just for generic AK number 4. I don't think anybody's looking... obviously there are some people. I don't think there's a lot of people looking for... Yeah, I want specifically an AK-105 or 106. Now, if you bring me an AK-12, it'll be a different story. It's just not a lot of people. Not a lot of people looking for more than a generic AK. Have there been any updates on the sale of KUSA? I have not seen any. I can't even find, like, which company is holding KUSA's assets. Like, whatever's happening, it is very well hidden, and I don't know what it is. And I don't like it. Attention, pants. I'm wearing pants today. I'm actually wearing shorts today because I didn't have to leave the house.
I want to talk about with thinking that it's cool, and ultimately I settled on the AK-105 because if you have an AK-105, not only are you probably very autistic, but you're probably
called out. Called out. And people who want AK-105s are autistic. PSA builder kit is only $650. That's pretty good, actually. That's pretty good. Maybe I try one, so I have something to put my 5K worth Zeniko on. That's a lot of money to put on a PSA AK-105. But at least then it would be on something. What other choice do I have? You could, yeah, that's a good point. I don't know. You can buy a used KUSA, retrofit it. TK, would it be good or bad if PSA bought up most of their properties? KUSA? That would probably be good. That would probably be good for PSA. Well, if PSA was going to do it, they probably would just buy like the equipment, the hardware, the machinery. They probably don't need the buildings and the actual like land property and stuff. Spend $3K on a custom build, end up with an $8,000 AK. Buy one of the Russian, buy a Russian import AK. Pay a huge premium, turn it into an AK-105. It'd be funny if they were for their Soviet arms line. Yeah, PSA, they already bought KUSA. They're making their Soviet arms line on it. Never told anyone. Be bad for us. Less options for consumers than if a company not already pumping out AKs bought them. And the problem is anyone looking to buy a bunch of AK building tooling is probably already making AKs. Gotcha. I actually tried to buy a Russian converted 105 for 4,000. Someone beat 4,000 years ago. There's a lot of guns I wish I'd bought years ago. But I didn't have the money years ago, just like I don't have the money now. So it's nothing I can do.
Very autistically into AKs. It is one of those guns, especially now with sourcing some of the parts for it, depending on the build, probably gets harder and harder. So what I'm trying to say is if you have a legit tricked out AK-105, you know, Zenico furniture and or other stuff, that's a pretty respectable build. And I think that is very
without the gun, just the Zenico stuff.
To get now. And I think AKs are very fun to shoot. I have some fun 5.56 AK variants that I think are a good time because it helps.
What in the battle worn is that? It's like Meridian Defense Chuny battle worn.
Helps break up the monotony of shooting all of those AR-15 other platforms. So I like it. As far as immediate recognition goes for an AK-105, I think the normal person would just look at it and think, oh, an AK-47.
AK-47.
But in the gun circles, typically everyone can recognize an AK-105. The pop culture significance, I would say, maybe unless it's some sort of like Russian military or Russian movie, there generally isn't a lot of protagonists in Western media that run around with tricked out AK-105s and or just bone stock AK-105s.
That's true. It's usually the bad guys with AKs.
The AK platform is seen as being the bad guy gun. So in our media, they don't really portray a lot of guys running around with AKs like that. And well, that's the 9 guns that I think make you seem cooler than you really are. I think sometimes within the firearms world, from what I've been seeing, there's always a focus on trying to have the most practical, lethal, deadly, SHTF, insert X, Y, and Z setup. Sometimes it's a nice reminder that you can have some very fun toys. Of course, don't put yourself into massive credit card debt, or do it. I'm not your dad, but I'd advise against it.
You heard it here, chat. Put yourself in massive credit card debt to buy your cool guns. Not the BATFA. Smaller AK builder becoming bigger would be better than PSA. Maybe increasing product line slightly. That's true. That is true. A small company buying would be better than a big company buying. Ferocious, it's me. Ferocious is going to buy KUSA. My AK may be Zastava M90, but it's still AK-47. All AKs are AK-47. I know there's a reasonable concern of a virtual monopoly, but PSA expansion is better than US AK manufacture languishing. Now, PSA still has a very long way to go before they have any kind of monopoly. Even on AKs, there's a lot of smaller companies, smaller to medium, I should say, making AKs. And besides imports, that's a whole nother thing. You got Zastava, you got Sentry. Those are both huge. Would a small company be able to fully utilize KUSA tools? It depends on how KUSA stuff is going to be sold. So if KUSA stuff is going to be sold like at auction, like lots at a time, not as all one giant bundle, then a smaller company could buy, like, yeah, we're going to take a few of their machines and presses and stuff and do quite a bit with that. If KUSA is being sold as a whole, it probably becomes more difficult. Ferocious, man, I can't really justify it. But because of certain somebody, I keep looking at Dragunov style rifle, a certain somebody. A certain somebody. I wonder who that certain somebody could be.
And guns in generally can be pretty fun. Get out to the range and have a good time hanging out with the boys. And of course, there's also the Second Amendment. Shall not be infringed. Don't infringe upon me. Yet again, this is technically opinion-based, coming from my brain, but I feel like a lot of my fellow gun enthusiasts would agree with that list, and maybe, of course, they would also have their own input, and when we're dealing with that, you have a never-ending list of things, so I had to narrow it down. Gentlemen, I appreciate you guys watching. I'd encourage you to go check out Pepperbox if you want to see content that is not going to get pee-pee slapped by YouTube. I have nothing else for you, and I will catch you all on the flip.
Chat, should I get Pepperbox? There's some things on Pepperbox that I think would be pretty interesting. The problem is there's like a handful of videos on Pepperbox that are interesting to me. And I don't know if I want to pay for Pepperbox for a few videos. Unfortunately, the only company that might be able to make use of the tooling is PSA. I don't think so. I think there's a lot of people who could make use of the tooling, of KUSA's tooling, as long as they didn't have to buy all of it at once. It would just come down to how KUSA is divvied out. Also Sleepy's fault. I saw it before. Tracksuit. Blue tiger stripe tracksuit. Commando Store. It's a website we can't go wandering too far on, I think. That's $140 for a sweatshirt and sweatpants. I mean, if you're looking for the Eastern European drip, you're not going to beat that. Commando Store constantly flogs my wallet. They've got a lot of cool stuff. They do have a lot of cool stuff. Oh, I sneezed and I bit my tongue so hard. I didn't like that. Not a fan of that. I need the cheeky breaky. It's very, very cheeky breaky. Does it come with the balaclava? HS Sport. Get in the game. No, balaclava. Separate, $15. I'm not going to be getting that. I definitely am not going to be able to justify $140 for something I might wear like once. TK, I went to a gun show and PSA had a near majority of the products. So you could say they're cornering the market for common consumer. Not a monopoly, I know, but enough to be concerned about anti-trade practices. I mean, PSA is huge, absolutely. But they are competing with other monsters in the industry who aren't going to be going anywhere. Like Smith & Wesson, Ruger, if we're going to go with two just huge companies. Ferocious, I think I'm definitely buying the balaclava. I might get a balaclava. I don't know what I'd do with it, but it'd be cool to just like have one sitting around. Look at my World War II style German overcoat trench coat. I am a big fan of trench coats. I need a nice trench coat. Beast Outdoors White Flyer has a monopoly on clay targets at this point. I'm gonna be honest. Whenever I buy clay targets, which is not very often, I have no idea what the brand is. It's good for winter. I have... It's not really a trench coat. It's a long coat that I wear for like 2 days every year when it gets cold in Texas. And it is very nice. Do you cut the pockets of your trench coat to keep your hands warm? Cut out the pockets of your trench coat to keep... What? What is it? Why? Why would you cut the pockets out of your coat? And how would that help keep your hands warm? Just put your hands in the pockets. The pocket liner. So you don't want a pocket. You just want a slit into the jacket, just the whole jacket. So if you try to put something in your pocket, it just falls to the bottom hem of your jacket. Is that what you want? No, I don't do that. That sounds awful. It's a lewd joke about trench coat wearers? I don't understand. I don't understand. I'm not lewd enough, chat. I'm not lewd enough. I don't get it. I don't know. If I'm gonna get a nice trench coat, I probably would get something more a kind of tech wear-ish than like a military or any kind of retro one, honestly. That's just purely because that's more kind of in line with how I dress. Also, if you wear your surplus German trench coat out in public, people might give you weird looks. A lot of new coats have the pockets sewn shut to preserve until purchase. So that's what he meant. That's what I thought at first too. Because if you're buying a coat with the pockets sewed shut, honestly, I'll probably just leave it sewed shut most of the time. Because I think the only jackets I've ever bought that had the sewed shut pocket is like a suit jacket. And who actually uses the pockets in suit jackets for anything? Those are just decorative. Like women's pockets. Pockets in women's clothes. Creepers have long been depicted as wearing trench coats while juggling their junk. I must have missed those depictions, thank goodness. Either because I didn't see them or I didn't understand what was happening. TK, I made my choice. I own a duster. Like a Western. Seeing a Western movie. Those are pretty cool too. Oh geez, my dad has some Russian wool long coats from a Sportsman Guide circa 92. Those are probably very warm. I would absolutely roast alive inside one of those. People these days think the National Socialist outfit is a red hat. Think you'll be fine. Yeah, you could probably get away with quite a bit. As long as it doesn't actually have symbols on it, you can probably get away with quite a bit of surplus garments. The suit jacket internal pocket is great for tissues or business cards. Those better be unused tissues. If you're keeping used tissues in your pocket, that's vile. That's disgusting. Business cards, I guess that makes sense. I know what he means, but I don't remember it having anything to do with the pockets. Foul. Yeah, chat, don't keep used tissues in your pockets. It's gross. I know there was like the whole era of history where people carried like handkerchiefs so they could blow their nose and then stick it back in their pocket to use later. But luckily we left that behind because that's nasty. Litter instead, put in a garbage can. There's garbage cans everywhere. You can't tell me you can't find a garbage can in public. It's not like Japan. We have to carry your garbage around until you find a garbage can, usually at home. There's a garbage can outside of like every store. Tissue is biodegradable. It's technically true. Holy jeez, I have found tissues in my coat pocket from years prior. It's not so, that's disgusting. That's gross. If I reached in a pocket and I found a used tissue, that's awful. That's terrible. Pro clean your pockets. Yeah, you might need to clean out your pockets. That's a fair statement. Handkerchief are pretty handy. What if you want to like rob a bank in like 1760? I do keep a handkerchief in my suit jacket, but it's for face/forehead sweat at hot events. Oh my goodness. Oh my, what that's like the bougiest thing ever. Like you're sweating and you pull out your handkerchief and you dab at yourself lightly and put the handkerchief back. Oh my goodness. I couldn't do it. I could not do that. I also don't sweat a lot, I'm gonna be honest. I am not a heavy sweater. Like unless it's like 110 degrees out and I'm like doing heavy activity. Not a heavy sweater. That left cargo pant pocket is designated trash pocket. I haven't worn cargo pants in so long. I used to wear cargo pants all the time in school. But then after that, I started developing a sense of fashion. And I don't wear cargo pants anymore. Unless I'm just like doing work, like around the house or something. Like if you're building something, like using tools, building something with your hands, like building a shelf, wearing cargo pants, very handy. Ohio summer outdoor weddings, 80% humidity. You're gonna weddings outside? People actually have weddings outside? I thought that was just a movie thing. I've never been to an outdoor wedding. Weddings are always inside. It's too hot to have a wedding outside. Are you crazy? People actually have outdoor weddings. I'm actually baffled. I didn't think that was something that happened very often. That was like movies and like Hollywood and stuff. Have I looked at Commando Store's heat rig? I have seen it, like, in the past. I've not looked at it today. I think someone shared it in the Discord. I don't know where they shared it in the Discord, but it's in the Discord somewhere. There it is. There it is. The heat rig. All the mags. Without cargo pants, where do you keep your moistened, flushable wipes? I don't carry around wipes with me because I'm not making messes I have to clean up. We see no cargo pants switch to skirts. I do have a kilt. Again, in real life, I have a kilt. I bought it. It's the 511 tactical kilt. I bought it on an absolute whim. Absolute impulse purchase on a sale. And I got it, and I realized I am nowhere near muscular enough to pull off a kilt. And so it sits in my closet. So I need to start hitting the creatine, get gigantic so I can wear a kilt. I wear Columbia nylon cargo pants every day while at work. 4 pockets needed for phone. Oh, 4 pockets needed for phone, wallet, keys, and trash. You need 4 pockets for your phones? Phone, wallet, keys, and trash. Okay, so wallet and keys easily can go in this same pocket. My wallet and keys, same pocket. Yeah, I only use 2 pockets. I've got phone in one pocket, wallet and keys in the other pocket. Back pockets are empty. Back pockets are for hands only. Better start deadlifting plus 200 pounds. If you're going to pull off a kilt, your biceps need to be the size as someone's thighs. And your thighs need to be bigger than that. Well, geez, I've worn a kilt as a bridesman in a wedding. Lucky I have nice legs. Former soccer player. I used to have really nice legs. I'm gonna be honest. My legs used to be very nice. I used to work out and do cardio and stuff just all the time. Kind of fell off. I work out every now and then now. I need to pick it back up. Okay, I used to attach my keys to my wallet before it got worn out. Did you have like a chain wallet? To attach them both to the chain? I used to rock a chain wallet. I still have it somewhere, probably. It's probably in some drawer. Keys in the wallet pocket will ruin my leather-lined wallet I've used for 25 years. Okay, hold on. Hold on. Do you actually like carry a key ring? Like with the jagged keys on it? Like when, so in my pockets, I've got phone in one pocket, in the other pocket there's the wallet. And then the car keys, which are like the ovular, like clicky buttons. There's no jagged edges. Do you know, do I not carry keys? I mean, I carry some keys, but they're in my wallet. I have the keys, like the jagged keys in the wallet, so they're not gonna like damage anything. Either my wallet or my pocket. So I have a little pocket in my wallet. It's got little, oh, we're still looking at the rig. It's like a little pocket in the wallet that's got little, like, you slide the keys in it. And it's very nice. Also, it keeps you from having the giant key ring that you gotta deal with. Keep them in your change purse. Keep your keys in your coin pocket. Weird? That's not weird. It's not weird. It's forward thinking. Maybe backwards thinking? I'm not sure. Where else am I supposed to put my VTuber keychains? You hang them on your guns, obviously. Like, why else would you buy keychains if not to hang them on your stuff? Like, you hang them on your guns and your bags, and I didn't know people actually use those for keys. Took them off my pistols. They probably will last longer on a rifle. Pistols are pretty jumpy. They move a lot very fast. TK, I haven't had a key holster in wallet for a long while. Like that again. Keys in wallet is so handy. It's so nice. I don't gotta worry about grabbing a bunch of different stuff. It's all right there. Although if someone steals my wallet, they also have my ID with an address and keys. Which is probably not ideal. So I just need to not have my wallet stolen and it'll be okay. He's just thinking that. I mean, it's... What's the foldy boy? This is the Keltec Sub 2000 Gen 2, which is the best generation of Sub 2000. While wearing a formal attire with a kilt, you're supposed to wear above calf socks, right? Yes. Unless you have the calves of Zeus, then you don't have to. Why is it the best gen? So the Gen 2 Sub 2000, a step up from the Gen 1 because it has rails and you can actually attach stuff to it. All I have on it is a charm. So it's a step up from the Gen 1, And it's the Gen 3 is a step down from this because with the Gen 3, they added that weird rotating forend system, which is neat if you don't want this gun to do what it was made for as well, which this gun is made to be very compact. Throw this in a backpack, which I do. So the Gen 3, you lose the iron sights. So when you fold it, iron sights don't matter. But when you unfold it, obviously, you need sights to use it. But the Gen 3, they took off the iron sights, so you don't have those sights that fold down into the gun. So you have to put on your own sight. And they put the rotating handguard on. So instead of being this super nice slimline package, you're literally required to have an optic hanging off the side if you want to be able to use your gun. So Smith & Wesson FPC is better? I do think so. The FPC is better than the Gen 2 sub 2000. Or the Gen 3 sub 2000. The Gen 2 sub 2000 better than FPC if you're looking for something really small, compact, easy to throw in a bag. If you don't want something to be small and compact to throw in a bag, then just don't get the thing that's made for that. Yeah, the FPC I would say is probably a better option than the sub 2000 Gen 3. Which is sad for me to say, because I really like this one. And they just made it worse. This one also takes Glock 17 mags. And so with that, it has a longer grip. The Gen 3 sub 2000 has a shorter grip and takes Glock 19 mags, which obviously you can still put Glock 17 mags in the 19 mag grip, but then you lose the length. And I have pretty skinny fingers, and this is already barely long enough. The Gen 3 is just a step down. If the rail rotated 180 instead of 90, it would be fine? Yes. Yeah, so if... it'd be better. If it rotated 180 degrees, then you couldn't have a grip on it. Or yes, you could, but you just couldn't fold it down all the way. It would be better, though. Yeah. But this one is mine, and I like it. And it's very good. It's pretty much stock. I've thought about getting the trigger upgrade for the sub 2000. Because the trigger in this is not great. But it's fine. It's an acceptable trigger. It's just a little squishy. Pretty much all I've added to it is angled grip muzzle device. And charm. Has anyone bought parts from K Tactical? Yes, that's where this is from. This little guy right there. That's a K Tactical charm. The bolt sketches you out? The sub 2000 bolt? Why? It's a big... It's just a long tube in a tube. It reciprocates? The bolt? Of course the bolt reciprocates. Every bolt reciprocates. That's how it works. The charging handle, though, does reciprocate. I have heard that if you have a big beard, this charging handle can cause issues. Time to repaint the nails? Maybe. Maybe. They're starting to look a little worse for wear. Charging handle? You don't have a glorious red beard. So as long as you don't have a glorious red beard, I've never had an issue with the charging handle on this. Like, as long as you're not, like, for some reason, gripping this tube while you're shooting, you're fine. It's great how both K Tactical and KM Tactical are on the same. What is KM Tactical? I don't know KM Tactical. All I know is K Tactical. KM Tactical looks much less weeby. Definitely much less weeby. Cheap Glock and AR parts. Yeah, it looks like just like scrolling through. They've got all the Mall Ninja parts. They've got engraved bolt carrier groups, dust covers, charging handles. Oh, the Punisher skulls? Yes. Yes. I'm your Huckleberry AR dust cover. I think I'd much rather be a K Tactical Weeb Ninja than a Mall Ninja. All right, we started talking about something at the beginning of the stream, like 2.5 hours ago. FRTs, chat. They're back. They're back. I mean, they've been back for a while. But finally, rare breed triggers. Is that the right one? Is it rare breed? I think it's rare breed triggers. Is that the one? One of them's back. Furts. The Furts are back. So pissed about the settlement. I don't know the details of the settlement, I'm gonna be honest. Like, it seems, just like from what people are saying, seems at least decent. And even angry at, but it's a win. You have link? Drop link? Drop link? And we'll see Fudbuster's breakdown of the settlement. I have not. All I've seen is people screeching about how now machine guns are legal. Watch Fudbusters. We're watching analysis. Fudbusters analysis. Rare breed settlement. Snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. That is a good video title. 28 minutes. Chat, this is a 28-minute video. I like double or triple the length of videos with my rambling. And you want me to watch a 28-minute video? Alright. It's probably important.
Hey guys, how you doing? Welcome back to Fudbusters. I'm Matt LaRosiere, and we're going to talk today about the rare breed settlement, the rare breed and NAGR settlement that has been really making the rounds, and a lot of people are confused, and justifiably so. NAGR is saying this is a total victory. Anti-gunners are saying that Trump has legalized machine guns. I read the settlement, and I don't see any of that, though. In fact,
obviously he hasn't legalized machine guns.
At first left me with more questions than answers, and that's why I think it's really important that we talk about it here.
Subscribe, please.
To start off with, something just seemed a little bit off to me about this being the case, right? The first case for DOJ to announce a big settlement with. For two reasons, right?
It is very interesting that they released the settlement for this right when they're getting a lot of steam behind removing suppressors, short-barreled rifles, and shotguns from the NFA. If I were a conspiracy man, I would think that someone was trying to distract people from pushing for something. Here, look, ooh, shiny. If I was a conspiracy man, that would be something that I would be looking for. So chat, remember, call your representative feds. Tell them about the NFA and how it's terrible. Okay, back to video.
Both in the way it was going good for gun owners. In fact, we were on a pretty sure track to victory, it seemed. And also given the relative seriousness, right, the relative risk level of the different cases that are going on. In fact, like, there's still cases of Biden-era gun-grabbing activity that have people sitting in prison right now, away from their families, right? And of course, Matt Hoover comes to mind. So that was one thing that just kind of stood out at me. So to start with, you know, this all concerns the named parties, which being Rare Breed Triggers, Rare Breed Firearms, National Association for Gun Rights, Texas Gun Rights, and then 6 individuals. The factual recitals are just background information, including rah-rahing about the Second Amendment task force of the Trump administration, and states that upon review, that the government felt the FRT litigation was no longer in the public interest. Great.
Okay.
They do conveniently leave out the fact that they were already told to knock it off once in the pending litigation. But getting down to the terms page is where the meat and potatoes of this settlement really is. These are all of the terms, the different things that bind one side or the other.
Tell me the meat and potatoes. To the extent
that this binds anyone at all, which again is going to be a topic for discussion as we round up. And again, as we start off with, they agree that within 7 days, they're all going to drop their lawsuits against each other. They're not going to proceed with seeking attorney's fees, and the government is agreeing to the extent practicable that it will return force reset triggers as it defines in the limited context.
To the extent practicable seems like some nice legalese that they're going to use to not do that.
That it is seized or taken as a result of a voluntary surrender. Such returns must be requested by individual owners by September 30th, 2025. And it's saying that it'll set up a website and stuff for people to do this. And of course, the government has already started waffling about.
Yeah, the website's probably going to go up on September 29th. Have one day.
How much it will already do this for. And I also want to point out, this is one of our first instances of weasel wording where I don't know if the words here are worth much more than the paper they're printed on. Practicable means able to be done or put into practice successfully.
Everything's kind of expensive.
The government quite a bit of wiggle room to be like,
politicians
lost it, or whoop, I don't know which one this was, or we got the serial numbers, or right. I'm not 100% sure on that one how much relief it actually grants. And again, we have already heard from somebody at NAGR that the government is taking the position that, oh no, we don't actually have to give them to everybody, just people who are parties to the lawsuit, which is again one of the things that we'll talk about, whether this has any effect at all. So in addition to that,
probably not.
It's returning all of the FRTs that it stole from Rare Breed itself, which is a lot, right? For Rare Breed, that's a really significant thing. That's a lot of money of business that was just completely tied up. And so that may have been significant.
It's good that they're at least probably getting those back.
But that return is considered full settlement value of all of the lawsuits that Rare Breed has against the government. Yeah. And another caveat, the government is not returning any further forced reset triggers that are evidence in criminal investigations, prosecutions, or civil forfeiture actions.
That's not great. That's not wonderful.
Which is odd, because wasn't this whole thing supposed to be, right? Wasn't the whole result of this supposed to be getting the government to agree that these aren't machine guns? Isn't that what we were expecting would happen out of this? It kind of doesn't seem like that's quite what happened.
Your favorite movies are on YouTube. Enjoy the latest releases.
So then we've got another section reiterating that this extinguishes all of the claims that Rare Breed, the named plaintiffs, and the gun groups have about anything arising out of the FRTs. And then we get down to paragraph 7, where it starts to get weird.
We're getting into some weird
Here
stuff.
In paragraph 7,
this is
Rare
what we
Breed
want.
And their head guys agree not to develop or design an FRT for use in any handgun, which the government here defines, or the agreement defines.
Oh, luckily, there's already some FRTs that you can use in handguns. Thank you, Pembleton. Go check out Pembleton. Tell him I sent you.
As a firearm whose magazine loads into the trigger hand grip. That's weird, right? Especially because the National Firearms Act doesn't have a distinction between automatic weapons by barrel length. So I don't know if it just shines a light on the fact that this is something the feds are concerned with or not, but
this might also prevent Rare Breed from putting suits against states. I don't know. We're gonna get there. What are the chances Rare Breed still warranty said damaged FRTs? Rare Breed might. Because that's just a business decision. As a business, Rare Breed seems pretty decent. We'll see though. And before DOJ says Rare Breed has to bring suit against them for patent infringement. What? Against Pembleton? That'd be stupid, because it works differently. It's a different operation.
It really makes you wonder what the idea was here, right? What is the legal significance? What is the principal distinction that's being made? And frankly, I don't think there is one. They further agree, right, the Rare Breed guys, not to market, advertise, or encourage individuals to put FRT triggers on any handgun. Masterful wording.
Put them on? I assume they mean in. The agreement says the government is going to define that, not explicitly but implicitly. Luckily, Pembleton technically It is not a FRT. It is an ART. An active reset trigger. And it has been from the start. It is an active reset trigger. It's got different branding.
This handgun thing, this gives the government, or at least appears to give the government, the ability to control development of FRTs for handguns and possibly in other directions as well. And as we'll see later,
you're pessimist.
DOJ is very clear
it's very
about
reasonable.
their stance on FRTs for handguns, and it appears to be that they think that they can make a differential determination that that's a machine gun, which would be very injurious to the law. It's not good.
Wait, this mechanism isn't a machine gun in a rifle, but if you put it in a handgun, this same mechanism somehow becomes a machine gun. Interesting. Let's see how that turns out in the long run.
Thing that is a normal handgun, right? So your M11-9, MP9 Glock with a chassis, no go for FRTs. But I guess the C96 and Tech 9 are okay. And again, you may...
Oh, that's true. That's true. Tech 9, the magazine is not inside the pistol grip. Therefore, by this new definition of pistols in this settlement, the Tech 9 is not a pistol. The government's wonderful.
Ask, what's the distinction? And the answer is that DOJ signed a paper, which they can back out of at any time, where they made it up, and they're going to pretend this distinction exists as long as Rare Breed & Co. agree to aggressively limit development of
AR/AK pistols. No, they're not pistols according to this definition in this settlement, because the magazine is not inside the pistol grip. No braced MAC with FRTs. I know you can put an FRT. Rare Breed can make an FRT for a Tech 9 because that is not a pistol, according to this definition, because the magazine is not inside the pistol grip. That would mean, however, that this is a pistol. Oh, I'm sneezing so much today. This is a pistol because the magazine is inside the pistol grip. Even though it has a stock and a 16.2-inch barrel or something.
And they steer clear of handguns. But how do they make this happen, right? Well, that's where paragraph 9 comes in, which smells a little weird, right? Paragraph 9 says that the Rare Breed
is a Tech 9 an SBR. Most Tech 9s are just pistols. I'm sure there are some Tech 9 SBRs that exist out there, but they're pistols.
And company agrees to take all reasonable efforts to engage in patent enforcement seeking prohibitory injunctions against any person.
Interesting. So that definitely explains. I've seen a couple videos come across my feed today. And they're like, oh, the differences between force reset triggers and super safety, or the difference between the Rare Breed FRT and the whichever company is doing the 3-position, not FRT, I guess technically. Interesting. So this is why all those videos are coming out.
Or entity that manufactures, sells, or distributes any FRT, right, as against how it was defined earlier, during the life of the 223 patent. So we've talked about the 223 patent before on the show, and if you want to have a good line-by-line analysis of that patent, claim
Delta Team Tactical, that's the one. Thank you. What if I can pull the trigger really fast? Am I a machine gun? Jerry Michulik definitely can shoot guns faster than a lot of guns can fire in full auto. And Jerry Michulik needs to serialize his trigger finger, apparently.
Claim, you can definitely go check out that video. It's actually really interesting, and we'll be touching on the 223 patent more later on. That's the original one, for those of you who don't know. The very first, the one we all saw years ago when it first came out. So yeah, they must take all reasonable
Delta Teams is on sale for $550. Delta Teams is it comes with a whole lower, right? Right. Is it the whole? No, it's okay. It's just a little pack. Oh, and you get 10% off if you're a new customer. So you can get this for less than $400 if you've not bought anything from them before. Less than $500. Did I say $400? I don't know. Math is hard. Numbers are bad. You get it for less than $500 if you're a new customer. I said less than 5? Okay. Good. Then I'm just have the memory of a goldfish, but at least I can do math.
To seek out these prohibitory injunctions. And it's specifically requiring that they seek out prohibitory injunctions.
3-position,
not just
8
monetary
scratcher.
damages. So it's specifically that they stop anyone else from making these, is what they're saying. And of course, this is at Rare Breed's expense. The United States will not bear litigation costs of any patent enforcement actions. And some people were saying, oh, so if they don't sue every...
can't ship to your state? They're stateless. Do you live in any of these restricted states? California, Connecticut, Delaware, Florida, Hawaii, Illinois, Iowa, Massachusetts, Maryland, Minnesota, New Jersey, New York, Rhode Island, Washington, D.C., Puerto Rico. It's a lot of restricted states. I'm getting out-of-state P.O. box and have it forwarded. Don't know if you can do that. Whether you can do something and whether or not it's legal to do something is two different questions.
Single FRT or anything like an FRT, then the DOJ is going to back out of the deal and they're going to become a Mashigo gun again. No, that's not the case, right? This is conditioned on the Rare Breed boys having a good faith belief that the subject of their litigation is covered by the 223 patent. But it's important to note a couple things here. One is that patent infringement extends to non-commercial, I just made it for myself types of uses. Patent infringement is make, use, sell, or import into the United States. All of those things are patent infringible. It doesn't matter. Sell is an independent one, right? So you're not going to be able to get out of this by saying, oh, well, I was just doing it for myself. That does not do that. And you could argue that if Rare Breed
Interesting. I'm in the market for Ammon, A9 MM. I'm looking between P320 365 or new Staccato HD P4. Well, that is a very broad price range. Oh my goodness. In California. If you're looking for carry, I'd say P365. In California, my recommendation is to leave as soon as you can. If you have buckets upon buckets of money, go for the Staccato. Then remember gun shows in the 90s? With the little TVs showing videos of the Hellfire triggers? Remember gun shows in the 90s? I literally couldn't remember something that I said literal seconds before. You want me to remember things forever ago. Do you know how long ago the 90s was? The 90s was 30 years ago. Not the 320, even though they're probably fine now. I wouldn't go for the 320 if you're gonna go for a carry gun. Just because it's, in my personal opinion, less convenient to carry than a P365. If you're looking for a full-size gun and you don't have staccato money, then yeah, go for the 320. If you do have staccato money, then, I mean, why not? Looking for a gun to do it all. Range toy, carry, and home. Then you probably want a P365. The staccato is going to be pretty large and heavy to carry. Although, obviously, that is going to be almost entirely personal preference. I do know people who everyday carry 2011s. That's just not for me. 365X macro. Yeah, the 365X macro is probably what I would say should be the go-to. The X macro, or maybe even the Fuse, if you want something slightly larger than that.
Finds that you made one for yourself and they don't come squish you, that it could be interpreted as a breach of the settlement. So DOJ does wrap this later on in the document in
California can't have the Fuse? Why? Honest question. Like, the actual firearm of the P365 is the fire control group. So you could just, like, buy the grip and stick it on there. Is staccato actually one of the few drop-safe 2011s? I think when Garantham did his drop-safe test, the staccato did not pass. But that was an older model of staccato.
Safety. But it's pretty clear that this is bald-faced regulatory capture. This is basically DOJ maintaining control of the FRT while getting out of a losing lawsuit by hamstringing future development.
And also distracting everyone from being excited about suppressor deregulation. Don't forget that one. They're gonna dangle something shiny. Don't look at it. Or gutting the NFA.
By means of a quasi-monopoly / partnership with Rarebreed, which is very awkward. And again, I'm just telling you how that looks. I wasn't in any of these backroom meetings, but that's how this looks to me. So again, moving on. Rarebreed's firearms may get their FFL back, which they lost earlier as a result of, unfortunately, the government's overzealous activities in this area. And then next up, we have another interesting one, a very interesting, very awkwardly worded paragraph 11, where
Cali roster is based on manufacturer part code or model designation. FCUs are not Cali approved, as there would have to be a separate designation that meets the magazine disconnect and the chamber indicator. Then that model designation would need to pass Cali safety testing. So if you have a P365 in California, you can't even like change out the grip module? Is that what I'm reading here? You can change the module, not the fire control unit. Okay, yeah, so the P365 fuse is the same fire control unit. It just uses a different grip module. And the serialized part is the fire control unit. The fuse model isn't Cali legal. So if you bought a P365 that's California legal, and you went and you bought a fuse grip module, slapped it on there, would that be illegal? Like maybe not even like a SIG branded one. If you bought one of the third-party fire control units that's just bigger. Not fire control units, a grip module. You bought a third-party grip module that's just bigger. Buy normal 365, get upgrade parts later. Right, that seems like the best option. To get the 365 and then just upgrade it. Because you can buy the 365 and a lot of upgrades before you even get close to the price of a Staccato. And also it's just a way better all-rounder gun if you're going to be carrying it as well. Now, if money is absolutely not an option, if you've got 6 figures coming in, maybe 7 figures because it's California and money doesn't go as far, then go for it. Go for the Staccato. And then after whatever California's wait time between gun purchases is, get the 365. I don't know. You could just get all of them. Just get all of them. Get one of each. But the 365 is definitely the best all-rounder. I'm in 6-figure range, but I don't know if it's justifiable to drop 3.2K for Staccato after fees. Yeah, I wouldn't. Staccatos are pretty nice, but there's a reason I don't have one. I'm gonna be honest, there are even some 2011s that I find pretty interesting. I would be more likely to buy the Bursa 2011 than the Staccato 2011. Or any Staccato, honestly. FCU as a part/serialized item is not approved, but the actual assembled pistols are. So if you bought a fully assembled California compliant P365, you would be able to upgrade it. Like you buy the Cali legal P365 pistol and then buy an aftermarket grip module or an aftermarket slide or something. You can slap it on there. Maybe P365 build it. Probably have leftover money and able to buy hella ammo. You can buy a lot of ammo with the price difference between an upgraded P365 and a Staccato. I would recommend the P365X Macro if that's available in California. If not, then the XL. I don't know which ones are available. X Macro is go-to. Thanks for putting me in realization check. You're welcome. You're welcome. Staccatos are very Gucci monies. You're paying Gucci money for a Staccato. It would be cheaper to get a 365X Macro and buy upgraded parts. I don't know how much 365X macros are in California after fees. But I'm guessing you could probably buy a 3 of them and still be less than a staccato. X macro, XL rows specifically, and the standard 365 are legal in California. Yeah, macro for sure then. $900 to $1,100 depending on store for X macro in California. That sounds about right. That's not too far off everywhere else. Yeah, so if you spend 1,000 on an X macro, and then you dump another 1,000, we're gonna be real fancy. You're gonna really tactical out, have a super Gucci P365, drop another 1,000 in upgrades. That's still $1,200 less than the staccato. That is not insignificant. Buy a lot of training ammo with that.
Where the United States agrees not to enforce NFA's enabling provisions in the case of certain FRTs. Now, this is limited to FRTs that it describes as being at issue in NAGR v. Garland. Basically, that the trigger is forcibly reset every round, and attempting to override the reset will induce a malfunction.
FRT is forcibly reset. Okay. FRTs have the mode of operation described in the district court's opinion. So this is the definition of FRT that now can only be made by rare breed. 1. The trigger is forcibly reset to forward state after each round fired. 2. The FRT is locked mechanically in reset state, preventing trigger from moving until the firearm is safe to fire. 3. The hammer must be released from its sear surface for every round fired. Oh. Hammer. Pembleton does not meet this definition because there's no hammer. It's a striker. Now, these guys might be looking. Delta team might be in trouble. On sale for $717. Snatch that thing up. I read that P365 has rust issues. I have not had any rust issues with my P365. And I carry it pressing against my skin, which is probably like the worst thing you can do besides storing it in salt water. And mine has no rust. So if someone says P365 has rust issues, they probably got water inside the foam case that it comes in and closed it in there. Only rust issues is lack of care from owner. Yeah. Any rust issues the P365 has is going to be negligence by owner. You clean it and oil it often. If I take it to the range and shoot a bunch of rounds through it, I will. But other than that, not really. Okay, my P365, because I'm gonna be honest, I don't shoot it as much as I should for a carry gun. I have too many other guns to shoot. I don't know, I've gone months without cleaning it and carrying it pressed against my skin, and it is perfectly fine. Now, some people have more corrosive sweat than other people, and I might have not corrosive sweat. So if you have super acid sweat, maybe. Maybe it'll rust your gun. But it hasn't for me.
And
oh wait,
are not...
we didn't finish reading these. Hammer released. The trigger in an FRT must reset after every round fired. Preventing reset will cause weapon to malfunction. FRTs are not designed for use in and used in handguns, as defined above. Okay, yeah, so Pembleton definitely is safe. Pembleton doesn't meet several of these requirements. So Pembleton should be good. Delta, not looking too good. That one, they're probably going to be fighting that in court, unfortunately.
Designed for use in and...
If there's damage to the finish, it would rust too? Do I have any damage to the finish on mine? I don't think so. I'm pretty good at preserving finish on my guns. I'm not throwing them in the rocks or anything. These stipulations shouldn't exist. They shouldn't. These stipulations are stupid. Any patent infringement should be fought just like any other patent would be fought in court. Obviously, as a business, this is good for Rare Breed because it nearly gives them a monopoly. But yeah, this is not good.
It is used in handguns as defined above.
With AI, almost anything is
we got
possible.
YouTube ads and
But that
Twitch
goes
ads at
for
the same
cybercriminals
time.
too.
Skip.
At first blush, it's not readily apparent if this, the U.S. agreeing not to enforce the enabling...
Then the government brings monopoly charges against them, destroys them, de facto ban FRT. If I was a conspiracy man... Yeah, it doesn't look too good. It doesn't look too good. We'll see how it pans out.
Provisions of the NFA against FRDs is limited to specifically, basically the 223 patent, the Rare Breed FRTs, or whether it covers something like super safety. When you look at the 5 criteria that the government put here on this agreement, which we'll talk about how enforceable it is in a minute, the sloppy wording of this section does not clearly and definitively state that any device meeting those criteria is good to go. And in fact, again, no one
average
else
modern government document.
Additionally troubling here is that Rare Breed's patent enforcement company has taken the position that the super safety violates a patent that Rare Breed owns. Again, hold that thought. Go through, it exchanges mutual releases, right? Saying that the two hold each other harmless, and the claimants and government will be friends forever, and they're not going to fight over this ever again. Then paragraph 14 is another odd one, where the United States agrees to consider filing statements in support of Rare Breed's patent trolling, detailing the public interest to be served by these injunctions.
Man. Rare Breed is really being handed a trigger monopoly on a silver platter. Oh my goodness. That's crazy. I want a statement saying the United States will file statements in support of me. What?
Now, again, agrees to
not
consider,
just triggers,
right? So
that's true. That's true. This doesn't specify that this is just for these triggers. in support of Rare Breed triggers civil actions for injunctions against patent violations. That's not just Rare Breed's force reset trigger patents. That's any patent they might hold.
This covenant, this agreement has the legal significance of an ink blot, but it really smells bad. DOJ, their most likely interest here in taking this position is to curtail the widespread availability and further development of FRTs. And I think it thinks that it can prevent an FRT from a handgun from ever existing by behaving in this fashion.
It's too late. It's too late. It already exists. Active reset trigger. Excuse me. Excuse me, it's not a force reset trigger. It is an active reset trigger. $40.
Paragraph 15 sees Rare Breed agreeing to promote the safe and responsible use of its devices. Yeah, nothing in this is intended to create rights enforceable by persons other than the named claimants as plaintiffs in the civil litigation. That's interesting. Nothing in this agreement is intended to create rights enforceable by persons other than named plaintiffs. Big win. Categorical victory, right? And then paragraph 17 explains that for some reason this agreement has nothing to do with the two civil cases that one of the Rare Breed owners has pending in Seminole County, where he is an attorney for someone named Lelou, involving slander and
ARTs different from FRTs.
Something to do with a Brazilian jiu-jitsu dojo or something. Is it just regular Floridian things that needed to be in this agreement with the DOJ? And again, the rest is, ordinary contract formalities, because that's what a settlement is. It's a contract. So I'm sure you're wondering, what does this actually do? Let's kind of look at that from the two different sides of the agreement. From the government's perspective, this means that they have a way to put an end to litigation that they were on the losing side of. And by doing it this way, they're preventing a circuit or possibly even nationwide result saying FRTs are good to go, right? Which would likely have been the case the way that Cargill went. So basically, the government still has the tool in the toolbox if it really wants to use it. And they get the carrot of curtailing the widespread adoption and development of more FRTs. Plus, the government seems to think it has a policy interest in preventing handguns from winding up with FRTs. Again, that's not really legally or logically comprehensible distinction, aside from the fact that the government is probably just has a outsized concern with Glock switches, especially the way they show up in the media so much. As for what this does for the claimants, right? Because remember, the claimants were on the winning side, right? They were going to get probably more relief than this. So that's a really weird one, right? As to why they would sign this. It's pretty easy to see why the government would sign this. Remember.
Well, it's pretty obvious to see why Rare Breed would sign this. Because it seems to pretty much give them a monopoly in the super speedy trigger market. So there's why they would agree to it.
Plaintiffs are doing awesome. Seem to be on track for a victory in the Fifth Circuit. And given the way the Supreme Court wrote Cargill, it looked like they were on the right side of the guardrails. Should it go all the way? So aside from snatching defeat from the jaws of victory, why do this? Well, on the one hand, it's a sure outcome. There's two clear winners here, and their names are DeMonico and Maxwell. From a business perspective, an injunction saying devices that work like this would be bad for their business. People would find a way to compete, and this settlement, if its words have more value than the paper
people already are competing,
would effectively give them a monopoly on the entire market, beyond that which their patents would seem to grant them, a sort of legal because we said so monopoly on top of the supposed intellectual property monopoly that they already have. But you heard me hint a few times now, is this actually enforceable? Does this actually do anything? In my opinion, no, it doesn't, on two different equally weird fronts. For one, the government cannot actually bind itself not to interpret the law a certain way. If the government could just write contracts in a civil lawsuit to get the result it wanted, the Administrative Procedures Act would be dead letter. You'd see environmental groups go to courtrooms even more than they do now, rather than lobbying to tweak the Clean Air Act. That's just not how it works. Imagine if Biden's ATF sandbagged with anti-gun groups to settle this interpretation and agree that pistol braces are and always will be forever and ever stock same men, for example, right? That would be the same thing. And it just doesn't work that way. Administrative agencies are charged with interpreting the law.
It is good that administrative agencies change all the time, as weird as that sounds. Because then you don't have the good things necessarily as permanent as you would like them. If it's just a change in ruling, it also means that the bad things can't stick, like bump stocks, like braces, like FRTs-ish.
You can't separate that to civil agreement, especially with...
So that's how they're growing so fast. They're hiring freelancers.
Why?
Look what they're doing with AI experts.
Gross AI.
Identity. But they promised, right? They signed the agreement, you might say. Yes, they did. They promised not to ever do it again and to keep not doing it forever and ever, amen, unless it's a handgun. But what about when they do anyway? Well, the parties to the agreement could sue. They could say, hey, we had a contract, and they would be right. The government would have violated the terms of that contract. A contract with no remedies provision. So what are the damages? Damages would be very, very fun to try to calculate, right? Because then this government in that position that was wanting to go back on this deal would be saying, we're just trying to enforce the law the way it's properly written. The government saying that, not me, right? And they're trying to stop us. What are the damages? And then the court would look to them, and you can guess which circuit this would be filed in, right? And say, what are your damages in getting to break the law? I don't think it would go very well for the claimants, right? And you're thinking, but if they sue, they could bring a sue in the good circuit, right? Okay, great. Remember when the anti-gun groups got together with a bunch of state attorneys general and sued to enjoin different settlements where they were actually somewhat enforceable? Why would they not do that here?
Government's up to shenanigans.
Why would they not?
Nothing's changed.
They could do it at any time if it is ever brought up. So, but that's one side, right? What about the other way that this is worthless? Remember, much of this agreement focuses on Rare Breed's 223 patent. Now, Rare Breed, by this agreement, seemingly deputized by the Department of Justice, is to patent troll as hard as it can to prevent this technology from falling into the wrong handguns. So Rare Breed has already begun filing these, by the way. So, of course, that all depends on the 223 patent and how good it is. We talked about the 223 patent in detail, like I previously said.
Tell me
basically, the
tell me
Rare
it's
Breed
bad.
patent, in so many words, covers the blocking bar elements of the forced reset trigger. The main elements are the locking feature, how it forcibly resets the trigger, preventing the trigger from being pulled again until the firearm's in battery. And the context of the Rare Breed patent is a AR-15 type firearm, right? Fire control mechanism pocket, transversely aligned pairs of hammer and trigger pins, blah, blah, blah. There's the locking mechanism as it's timed with the bolt carrier to knock you off of the trigger until it's safe to fire again and then allow you to pull it back again. That's the whole way it works. We've talked a lot about Graves' patent and this and that and the other thing. But
it is a huge wall of text.
Had all of these features 90 years ago, right? What if there was a patent that expired in the 1950s? Well, Ivan, this is actually pretty cool. Well, Ivan was doing some historical research to prove that Glocks aren't uniquely easy to convert into bullet hoses. You remember some of those lawsuits that came around. He found this patent when looking into the 1911 side of things. It's 2056975. We'll call it the
wall of text. We're looking at an analysis of the Rare Breed trigger settlement, which doesn't look as wonderful as some might have originally thought. It looks like the Bible with all the numbers. It kind of does. 12, 13. It's U.S. Patent Code Office, machine gun and converter. chapter 9 claims, verse 13, counterclockwise depressing hammer strut.
The 975 patent. It was invented by Mr. Charles J. Michal, and he first applied for it in March of 1934, and it covers machine gun and converter, therefore. Now, before you start saying, oh, the FRT is not a machine gun, take a step back, right? Mr. Michal patented the device 4 months before machine guns were regulated by the NFA at all. When Mr. Michal applied for this patent, and certainly when he was inventing it, a machine gun was still something you could order in a catalog to your house.
Oh, true. When he wrote it, the definition for machine gun hadn't been defined. There was no definition for machine gun. So the wording in the patent doesn't mean anything at all.
Right? It did not have a statutory definition. There was no single function of the trigger issue to worry about. So we look at the Michal patent and we read through the claims. We find a lot of discussion about lock breech firearms, about the need for the firearm to have the trigger reset between each shot. And being that it's a much earlier firearm patent than the type we're used to now, its claims are much broader and cover a lot of ground. For example, I'd like to point out claims 7 and 9. So claim 9, the combination with a semi-automatic firearm in which the trigger must be released between successive shots of means articulated by the recoil of a recoiling part, said means consisting of a converter operatively connecting said recoiling part with the trigger, whereby to force the release of the trigger against the tension in the trigger finger of the operator, and to permit this tension to pull the trigger upon the completion of counter recoil, whereby the firearm is rendered fully automatic. Again,
that's a pretty good descriptor of the FRT. Pretty good descriptor of an FRT, except for when it says fully automatic.
This is a different idea of fully automatic, but what's being described here. Then claim 7, in an attachment for concerning a semi-automatic pistol, a pivoted element, a projection therefrom for engaging the side of a pistol, and a second projection from the pivoted element for engaging the trigger, whereby the trigger is moved into the pre-firing position against the pressure of the trigger finger of the operator and is held inoperative during recoil and counter recoil, and is instantly released for firing under continued pressure of the trigger finger of the operator upon the completion of counter recoil. So there's a lot of different elements, and it's all, again, very well summed up in this embodiment, which, as you can see,
sounds like an FRT,
is functionally identical to the rare breed idea. You have this little arm that is number 17 in this image, which knocks the trigger forward.
Number 17. Okay, right here.
Completely holds the trigger forward as long as the reciprocating mass is traveling, and only when it comes back into place are you able to pull the trigger again.
Yeah, that's an FRT right there. Write that down. Write that down. FRT Battle 1 currently. The FRT Battle has concluded currently. Whether or not it's won is a bit up for debate.
This was not referenced in the 223 patent. Likely because, again, the language was very different. It works in the exact same way the 223 patent functions. There's a locking member which imparts on the slide the functional equivalent of the bolt carrier, energy from which the forces the trigger to reset, the geometry of which prevents the trigger from being pulled again until the slide goes back into battery, which is the functional equivalent of the bolt carrier. Now, of course, there are some pieces of nuance here. To invalidate a patent with prior art, there's two ways of doing it. One is through anticipation, which basically says the old patent anticipated your entire invention.
Complex stuff
and
here.
You can find it from the claims of the patent. These claims are very broad. The other more common way is obviousness, which is that this old patent combined with some other patents render this patent obvious and thus not novel and not eligible for patent protection. Respectfully, I believe the 975 patent either anticipates or, I think much more strongly, renders obvious the 223 patent. I think the only argument against anticipation, where the new patent would be just outright invalid, that I see are a structural distinction between the slide and bolt carrier. However, I think that's a weak argument. I think the bolt carrier and slide are both structurally and functionally interchangeable. Plus, Michelle's disclosures are much more broad, and I do expect that they anticipate the rare breed, because the rare breed use case is the only separation is the word bolt carrier and then the discussion of transverse pins, but I don't think those pins make anything different. So perhaps when you combine it with a previous patent for a AR trigger cassette, that's it, and it's rendered obvious. Now, in a challenge to the rare breed patents on obviousness grounds, I think the 975 patent, covered with other patents that previously disclosed AR drop-in cassette triggers.
Oh, my mind's going numb. He's saying so many words so fast. I do not have time to process all of these. Oh my goodness. Can we bribe Congress to repeal the NFA? Yes. The problem is there's a lot of money bribing Congress to not do that. Get the gist of it? Basically, the only difference between the old patent and FRT, RBT, patent is drop-in capability, pretty much.
Coupled with the Stoner patent, which invokes bolt carrier timing, presents a strong case to invalidate the 223 patent. Now, again, I don't think the FRT is a machine gun under the law. I also don't think Mr. Michel's is either, because it works in the exact same way that the FRT does. The term simply hadn't been given a definition at the federal level back when Michel made his device, right?
It would be huge if this patent could be invalidated, especially after this settlement that basically gives Rare Breed a monopoly on the market based on that patent. You just invalidate the patent and you're good.
And the technical precision we ascribe to machines today didn't exist at that time either. What I do think is that this settlement was not a win for us. I think most people anticipated a solid win on the case in the Fifth Circuit, which would have had binding precedent that would have been helpful for us all.
Yep.
With this agreement, that's all gone. There's no...
We don't have the precedent, which is very unfortunate. Regardless of whether or not Rare Breed actually gets this DOJ approved monopoly, there's no precedent.
Binding precedent. The only thing you've got is the district court orders. And a pinky promise agreement that has no consequences if either side decides to wander off. It's an overall nothing burger. To be fair, I really like the guys at NAGR, and I think they did an amazing job. I think their briefing in this case was fantastic.
Some dungeon entrances and top heroes are super
why?
sneaky.
Another one?
At Sentry Tower,
Another
most
one?
players just grab the chest and leave.
Every time I get an ad, I am less likely to use whatever product it is. Whenever I get an ad for something, it makes me actively avoid that product.
Don't expect this result was their choice. I feel like this may have been the result of some external pressure, but the fact that they're touting this as some kind of big win or totally victory is frankly embarrassing. In my opinion, the parties in this case snatched defeat from the jaws of victory in an attempt to personally enrich two guys, and that makes me sad.
And also, the DOJ got a little shiny thing to dangle in front of gun owners to distract them from the fact that there's progress being made on removing suppressors from the NFA and deregulating short-barreled rifles and shotguns. This is a farce. This is a distraction, chat. This is the keys that they're jingling to distract you from what matters. I know the keys are fun. Don't look at the keys. It's about the NFA. They're trying to distract you. Don't be distracted. Also, who shoots a Mac 11 with their left hand? Friggin' left-handed shooters. I'm not represented here. I'm gonna be upset. Mao, me, am left-handed. Yeah, where's the right-handed representation? Come on. I guess we can give this one poster. We can give this one poster to left-handed people.
And I think it's really embarrassing that they're calling this a win and doing victory laps with it. They lost. We lost. But that's my take. You're free to disagree. And again, if
most webcams mirror image, it's probably right hand. If it was right hand, this is left hand because you've got ejection here. And it ejects out the right side. So even if this was mirrored, the open side of the hand would be facing towards the non-ejection side.
Appreciate you guys watching and supporting. It's been amazing having all of my patrons that we've gotten to talk to every day, me and Ivan, in the Discord. Please come join us. Twig is late this week because Ivan is a little sick and we've got a lot going on, but we will be back with a vengeance. I hope you enjoyed a little traditional Fudbusters upload. And again, we're working constantly to get back into the swing. If you want to support my content and also support my legal work, you can consider joining the Patreon. There's
going to eat.
But again,
good night, Mo.
That's my take,
Sleep
guys.
well.
My opinion in a quarter might be able to get you a gumball some places, but I figured I would put it out there. That's it for today, guys. See you next time.
So, well, nothing like the government making a W look like an L. Or making an L look like a W. They make it look good, but it's actually not good. Definitely a distraction. Yeah, it's definitely a distraction. When that dropped, like my Twitter feed, I don't know if you guys are following my more politically active and giveaway active account on Twitter. But that feed is very much, or was very much, all completely and 100% destroy the NFA. Remove suppressors from the NFA, pass the Short Act. As soon as that dropped, all gone. All gone. It all turned into, oh, FRTs are back. So don't be distracted, chat. A lot of people are going to be distracted by FRTs. We got to lock in. They know how to entertain their opposition. They do. Take a light off shotgun. Blind chat. Come on. Get off. Flashbang. Oh. Brighter flashbang. We got 2 levels of flashbang. This is probably really good for my camera. Now I'm gonna put this thing back on. Go back on, please. Flashbang emote when? That's a good emote idea. Whenever I get emotes redone. Good idea. My eyes! Yeah, you got no eyes, chat. No more eyes. Been blinded. Been blinded by the O light. Apparently LiDAR will scorch camera lenses. Luckily, that's not a LiDAR light. It's just a lumens light. It is good to know, though. Or at least good to apparently know. Allegedly. Allegedly. All right, chat. We have one more thing. We've got one more thing to look at. We have a high quality. Probably one of the best news sources. Trump admin permits sale of device that allows standard firearms to fire like machine guns. Gun control groups condemned the move as a dangerous backroom deal spearheaded by Trump's general counsel that effectively legalized machine guns. Lasers are not kind to lenses of camera sensors. Yeah, I didn't use the laser. That flashlight does also have like a light laser combo. So it's got just white light and also a white light laser combo, which I did not use. They always have to paint it as bad. I think this time it might actually be bad. Because, you know, of the blessing the DOJ gave FRT for their monopoly on these things. They just have it bad for the wrong reasons. Oh, we've got an image description. Former Congresswoman and gun violence survivor Gabby Giffords standing among vases of flowers that make up the gun violence memorial installation on the National Mall in Washington. On the mall? Is this like on the roof? I don't know what the National Mall is. The National Mall could be a field. That's what it looks like. Isn't FRT just for fun and not as controllable as real Switch, even though both are not controllable? So FRT definitely is not as controllable or consistent as actual machine gun. But there are people trying to peddle FRT as it's actually being practical for things and not just for fun. I don't know if I buy into it, but there's people saying that. By Ken Dilanian. I don't know how to pronounce his name, and I don't care. The Trump administration has decided to permit the sale of devices that enable standard firearms to fire like machine guns, a move that one person familiar with the matter said was, quote, by far the most dangerous thing that this administration has done on gun policy. You're not gonna say who? One person familiar with the matter. Is this a Reddit expert? Who? One person familiar with the matter. It's not a very good source. Who is that one familiar with the matter? Who knows? Who knows? Maybe we'll find out who that is. The Justice Department on Friday announced a settlement in a lawsuit brought by the National Association for Gun Rights. The lawsuit challenged an ATF rule banning forced reset triggers, devices that allow semi-automatic weapons to rapid-fire bursts of bullets. Well, in layman's terms, that sounds about right. This Department of Justice believes that the Second Amendment is not a second-class right, Attorney General Pamela Bondi said in a statement, and we are glad to end a needless cycle of litigation with a settlement that will enhance public safety. I'm not going to rehash my thoughts on the settlement, but it's not good. Vanessa Gonzalez, a spokeswoman for Giffords, the National Gun Violence Prevention Group, led by former Representative Gabrielle Giffords, condemned the move. Unsurprising. Quote, the Trump administration has just effectively legalized machine guns. Lives will be lost because of his actions, said Gonzalez. This is an incredibly dangerous move that will enable shooters to inflict horrific damage. The only people who benefit from these being on the market are the people who will make money from selling them. Everyone else will suffer the consequences. I don't know, I might suffer a little bit more enjoyment at the range. Last I checked, the vast majority of people who were doing the criminal shootings weren't spending a few $100s to slightly upgrade their trigger. And maybe my information's outdated. But that's not a thing. It came to me in a dream is just as good of a source. It came to me in a dream. One person familiar with the matter. Yeah, that's not a good source. All right, ongoing court battles. So many. The move comes after a majority of judges on the conservative Fifth Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals appeared to side with gun rights group during oral arguments in the case in December. Yeah, see, and that's why I don't think this is as much of a win as people think it is. The judges cited a Supreme Court decision last year finding that another rapid-fire device called a bump stock did not convert firearms into illegal machine guns. True, they didn't. Since the forced reset trigger devices will not be considered firearms, they can be purchased anonymously without a background check or age check. Machine guns have been illegal in the United States since 1986, a notion that even gun rights groups have come to accept. What? A notion that even gun rights groups have come to accept? That machine guns have been illegal since 1986? Machine guns got a lot harder to purchase since 1986. They're still legal. You can still go buy a machine gun. They're just expensive. Because in 1986, no more new machine guns could be made for civilian ownership. And I'm gonna send you guys some homework go check the crime rates in 1985 before this was passed and compare those to now, and then report back to me. Because this machine gun ban has had zero effect on crime. There have been several lawsuits over the forced reset trigger ban, and lower court judges had issued rulings that came down on both sides of the question. Assuming the Fifth Circuit ruled against the ban, the issue likely would have ended up in front of the Supreme Court. Yes, it probably would have. Well, it may have. If they ruled against the ban, it's kind of a toss-up if it would end up in the Supreme Court. If they ruled for the ban, it almost definitely would have ended up in the Supreme Court. Because they just did this. They just did this with bump stocks, and those weren't machine guns. But now the Trump administration is abandoning the effort to restrict the devices. A former senior ATF official criticized the move and predicted that the courts would have upheld the ban on reset trigger devices. Again, a former official, name drop. Your words mean nothing. Quote, "We were going to win this," said the former senior ATF official. "These things are not like bump stocks. Have you considered there may be a reason they are a former ATF official? They may not be quite as much of an expert as you think." Trump's White House counsel, David Warrington, is a co-founder of the National Association for Gun Rights and was counsel of record in lawsuit until he left to join the Trump administration. The White House did not immediately respond to a request for comment about his role, if any, in the settlement discussions. Okay. Brady United, the country's oldest gun violence prevention group, condemned Warrington's role. Quote, "This dangerous backroom deal, spearheaded by Trump's general counsel, the co-founder of one of the biggest gun rights groups in the country, is not only an incredible abuse of power, but undermines decades of sensible gun safety policy and puts communities at immediate risk," Chris Brown, the group's president, said in a statement to NBC News. That hurt me to read. That my IQ dropped literally from just reading this quote. Sensible gun safety policy? You mean all of that arbitrary nonsense regulation that doesn't prevent crime? Is that the sensible gun policy that you're talking about? Probably. A DOJ official said Warrington was not involved in the settlement negotiations. Wait. The White House did not immediately respond to a request for comment about Warrington's role, if any, in settlement discussion. A couple sentences later, a DOJ official said Warrington was not involved in the settlement negotiations. That kind of sounds like they did get a response on his role in settlement discussions, and they said he wasn't involved. I may have the memory of a goldfish, but you're literally contradicting yourself. Do you think I was going to forget in the last 3 sentences? Oh my goodness. Journalists aren't real people. a settlement in perpetuity. Under the settlement, the Justice Department, quote, will bind itself in perpetuity not to enforce the machine gun ban against any device that functions like forced reset triggers. One person familiar with the settlement told NBC News, quote, ATF must also return thousands of seized forced reset triggers to their previous owners. In other words, machine guns will soon become legal to possess and purchase. Oh, really? When? Let's go. And the federal government will flood the market with these devices. And so, I mean, leaving out some context, will not enforce machine gun ban against any device that functions like forced reset triggers. There was like a whole page of exactly what that meant. Another mystery one person who came to you in a dream. ATF must also return thousands of seized force reset triggers. Yeah, most of those ones that they're returning to the company. Obviously, there's some that they're also returning to actual customers. Most of those are going back to the company. Some of the most popular versions of forced reset triggers are made by a company called Rare Breed Triggers. Yes, that's what this whole thing was about. Rare Breed Triggers, which was sued by the ATF in a separate case. That case will have to be dropped as part of the settlement, one of the people familiar with it said. Yes, it will. That was part of the settlement. The Justice Department news release said the settlement, quote, includes agreed upon conditions that significantly advance public safety with respect to FRTs, including that Rare Breed will not develop or design FRTs for use in any pistol, and will enforce its patents to prevent infringement that could threaten public safety. Rare Breed also agrees to promote the safe, responsible use of its product. That sounds like a lot of that, quote, sensible gun policy that they were talking about. Bunch of nonsense jargon. Except for the part where Rare Breed is going to be filing all kinds of patent infringement lawsuits against everyone. Proponents of the device dispute that forced reset triggers turn standard guns into machine guns. That's because they don't. But the ATF determined that the devices allow semi-automatic AR-15 to fire as fast as a military M16 in automatic mode, according to court records. Oh, I don't think my brain cells are going to make it, chat. This is going to... Have these people never heard of speed shooters? Like, there's people who can do this or near it with just their finger. Like Jerry Miculek, he's got so many world speed shooting records. We're not going to serialize his pointer finger. The effort to ban forced reset triggers originated in the first Trump administration. Interesting. I had forgotten that. Much like the bump stock ban happened during Trump administration, it's almost like Trump isn't quite as pro-2A as people would like to believe. Despite some good things happening, he's not. At the same time that the ATF also banned bump stocks, another device that enables rapid trigger pulls that mimic the firing rate of a machine gun. The gunman in the 2017 Las Vegas shooting killed 58 people while firing from his hotel room window using bump stocks. Ooh. What, did he though? Did he though? You gonna get me to put on my tinfoil hat. We'll leave that for another time. We don't want to be here for too long. But that fire rate and the sound of the shots did not sound like an AR-15 using a bump stock. Just saying. Oh, image description. Brady United is named for Ronald Reagan's press secretary James Brady, who was injured in the 1981 assassination attempt on the president and Brady's wife. Well, remember that one for Jeopardy later. The Supreme Court ruled by a 6-3 margin last year that the bump stock ban was unlawful. The majority concluded the devices did not meet the definition of a machine gun because they didn't allow for automatic fire with the single pull of a trigger. With the single function of a trigger. But other than that, good sentence. Single function of a trigger. Yeah, journalists definitely are not real people, for sure. For sure, journalists aren't real. I think I only lost a few brain cells there. Unfortunately, there's going to be a lot of people who read this and are like, oh no, now machine guns are legal. It's because the journalist said so. And they're definitely not. Force reset triggers are very much not a machine gun. And there's no amount of journalist nonsense that will change the definition or the court's rulings for what a machine gun is. So, Mr. Delanian should cut the nonsense, along with all the other journalists. Full name was Brady Handgun Control, Inc. Incorporated. Wow, fancy. I want to be incorporated. No, I don't. To be incorporated, you need like the government's permission to do things. And I'm not a huge fan of that. All right, chat. That was the last thing that I had planned for today. And I might have run out of nonsense to ramble on about. Also, up. It's 1:30 in the morning. So, probably going to be ending stream here. Thanks for stream. You're welcome. You're welcome. Thanks for being here. We are going to raid out, though. What do we raid today?
Deploying reinforcements. TK_Sensei just followed.
TK, thank you for the follow. Welcome. I guess you've been here for a while. Welcome. Oh, you know who we're gonna raid today? We're gonna raid not the Sloth, because they changed their name. So we're going to raid Faultier, formerly known as the Sloth. So we have raid messages. If you would like to grab one of those, we have those both for subscribers and non-subscribers. I will be back tomorrow I might try to stream a little earlier tomorrow so that we can catch some Voop chat, even though I'm still slightly angry at Voop chat for removing Kirsha and Smuggle Anna from being options for favorite VTubers. We might be an early stream for that. And then just kind of just go. So until next time, I will see you all next time. That will be tomorrow at some time. Yeah, I will see you all next time. Not the Batfa. Goodbye. TK. Goodbye. Derez. See you later. Fruit Salad Puncher. Goodbye. Anyone else hanging about, lurking? I appreciate you all very much. And I will see you all tomorrow. Bye.